The protagonist decides that dying at 23 is too soon and declares that death only brings her relief. The young woman spent 5 long years in the hospital, bedridden by a strange illness. Her senses began to fail one after another, starting with her sight. For her, losing her vision was a devastating blow, as she wouldn't know the end of her beloved novel. She didn't understand why, if her fate was to die, she had to endure so much suffering. And suddenly, after dying, the protagonist opens her eyes again, being a character in the novel she was reading before losing her sight. When she opened her eyes, the first thing she thought was that her blanket smelled deliciously good. She wondered why it smelled like that, since the nurse hadn't used air freshener in her room. And suddenly, she jumped upon realizing she could smell again for the first time. She turned her head, not believing she truly felt something, when it was impossible before. She understood that, indeed, it was the unmistakable scent of roses. Trying to understand what was happening, the girl looked up. Incredible, the young woman was in an unfamiliar room. In an instant, someone knocked on the door and, calling her Ariel, asked if she had woken up yet. A maid brought her a tray, wishing her good morning. The girl was in shock, as she was being attended by a maid, who just smiled innocently and asked what scent she preferred for the bath. "My lady." The young woman didn't understand why someone would wear those clothes in a hospital, and then she thought, what does it mean to be Lady Ariel? The protagonist looked at the tray, seeing something strange, like jelly with a rose inside. She kept staring at the object, realizing she was seeing it for the first time. The lady was surprised when touching the new object, concluding it was like being in a flower garden. She didn't remember such an amazing scent, and the maid looked at her strangely. The maid asked what was wrong with the lady, as she looked very strange. She said she was just enjoying the scent, and the maid was stunned by such courtesy, asking what she had done wrong. She fell at Ariel's feet and began to apologize, thinking that so much kindness was sarcasm and an insinuation about her mistake. Ariel tried to calm the girl, assuring her she wasn't angry. Suddenly, the young woman's gaze fell upon the tray. Upon looking at her reflection, she didn't recognize her own face. The maid looked at her mistress clumsily, fearing saying one word too many. Ariel couldn't believe she looked completely different. She didn't understand why she was someone else. She was too shocked and demanded they bring her a mirror. Upon seeing herself, she noticed pink and curly hair, eyes bright as the morning sky, skin pale as snow. She immediately knew she had seen that face before. She realized she had seen that face before on the cover of her favorite novel. Impossible to confuse. The lady, in shock, repeated what the maid had said, and the maid replied that her name was Ariel. Her gaze fell. The young woman was terrified, asking for the name of that heroine. Nervous little laughs escaped her lips. Ariel let out a nervous and somewhat maniacal laugh, frightening the maid standing next to her. She remembered that this was precisely the name of the antagonist in that novel. Ariel concluded that she was doomed. That character died early on, publicly hanged. The only thing known about her was that Ariel was presented as a brilliant perfumer. The reason for this was the scent of a demonic flower, the Onyxia, which the protagonist, Cedric Evans, desperately needed. In the plot, Cedric asked Ariel to create a perfume with that specific scent. And being a genius, the girl achieved it wonderfully, creating a unique and unequaled aroma. Of course, nothing is free, and Ariel asked Cedric to date her in exchange for the perfume. He had no choice, but she wanted a serious relationship, something deeper. But unfortunately, he rejected her without hesitation. Abandoning her, the boy started dating someone else. How shameless. Ariel's obsession grew uncontrollably. She tried to murder the female protagonist with the perfume, poisoned. However, they caught her and publicly hanged her for attempted murder. Looking at herself in the mirror, she understood that a truly tragic end awaited her. The maids began to dress Ariel while she remembered the novel, and she became terribly nervous. The girl understood that she was given a second chance and couldn't die so foolishly. She started thinking about what she should do first to avoid death. That very day, she had a date with Cedric himself. When he called her, she smiled and answered to her name. The lady instantly declared that it was time to end her relationship with him. She understood that she had to leave him first to avoid future death. Ariel got up from the table and declared that she felt nothing for him anymore, and it was time to end it. The boy tried to stop her, saying not to leave so quickly and that he had things to tell her, and to reproach her. She smiled and explained that she would send the perfume by messenger, and that there was no need to see or talk. She smiled and joked that he wouldn't turn into a rabid dog because she left without remorse. The boy looked at the girl and repeated the last phrase, completely confused. It turns out she called him that nickname while reading the novel and instantly apologized. Having said everything she had to say, the young woman left the restaurant. After seeing Cedric, Ariel understood her obsession. He had a beautiful face, but dying for him was stupid. Ariel concluded that, since they broke up, their paths would never cross again. And that meant there was no reason to die. Ariel could live a new life. The second chance they gave her, Ariel left the restaurant shouting to the four winds that she was finally free. Upon arriving at the palace, she saw a tall man, wearing a dark suit and an elegant tie. Everyone bowed to him, not daring to look up. It turns out that this grim-faced man was Ariel's father. Her father inquired if his daughter had seen Mr. Cedric again. Suddenly, the man shouted, saying that she was dishonoring the family, and everyone pointed at her. And after those words, he asserted that no matter how hard she tried, Lord Evans would never look at her. In an instant, Ariel hurried to declare that she and Cedric had broken up. The young woman affirmed that there was no reason to worry, as they had ended their relationship. Everyone, including the servants, was in shock due to Ariel's strong declarations. But instead of support, the father laughed in the young woman's face, saying that Cedric had finally broken up with her. She tried to explain that the breakup was by mutual agreement, to which the father replied that he would never believe it. Because she was suspiciously calm, Ariel's patience finally ran out, and she replied that she herself proposed the breakup. The man was astonished, asking her to stop this farce, as it was just another trick to get attention. But when Ariel replied that she no longer felt anything for Cedric, her father exploded in fury. The man suggested taking her temperature, since she seemed ill. Ariel begged them to stop, saying that she wasn't sick but very tired, and she wanted to retire. Ariel's father almost fainted at such a declaration. She had no right to speak to such an important man like that. The lady was exhausted, but still needed to visit the perfumery. The lady asked her maid to accompany her, but once there, ordered her to leave. The maid was stunned to hear that her mistress wanted her to go rest. At this, the maid bowed and thanked her mistress. Upon entering the place, she saw a huge table and a shelf full of vials with new fragrances. The young woman started examining all those vials and touching everything that was there. Taking one of the vials, the lady smelled it, perceiving an intense aroma. It was a very sweet and strong aroma, like roses in full bloom. Although the smell was delicious, it was too strong, making Ariel cough. Tears sprang to the girl's eyes when she realized how long she lived without smelling. In her past life, she dreamed of being a perfumer, studying arduously to achieve it. Before getting sick, the young woman studied chemistry at the faculty with great passion. Suddenly, the lady shook her head, determined not to remember the past. Ariel started looking for something, an object that should be somewhere in the room. Her gaze landed on a box of chocolates, which was slightly ajar. Opening it completely, the girl smiled, understanding she had found what she was looking for. Ariel found the book where, in the novel, she always noted down her recipes. Upon opening that book, she stumbled upon a truly strange recipe. The lady saw the recipe for a scent meant to murder the protagonist. Ariel was horrified, quickly moving to the next page. Suddenly, her gaze landed on a love perfume that Ariel had once created to make Cedric fall in love with her. Ariel started skimming the book, as none of that was what she was looking for there. Suddenly, she finally saw what she needed. A perfume in a violet vial. They were perfumes with the scent of a demonic flower, the Onyxia. This legendary flower, which after closing the gates to the demonic world, is rarely found on the eastern continent. Even royalty members tried to obtain this flower, due to its uniqueness. But the problem is that scent is the only medicine that can calm Cedric. When she tried to get away from that smell, an unimaginable tragedy occurred. The girl concluded that was terrible, and she must prevent it from happening again. Suddenly, Ariel was interrupted. They informed her that a guest from the Evans mansion had arrived. Ariel was quite surprised. What a surprise! A tall boy appeared at the door, with brown hair and a sweet smile. The girl looked at him, thinking it might be her advisor, perhaps. The boy apologized for his visit at such late hours of the night. The lady smiled and said it didn't matter, and if they had come, it was for a reason. Moreover, she would love to know the reason. The boy handed the lady a small box, explaining that she had dropped it at the restaurant. In the box was a small bouquet of blue roses, the ones the girl used today. The advisor smiled, saying that His Majesty requested it be returned to her. Ariel was surprised, as Cedric usually didn't care if someone forgot something like that. The lady smiled, looking down, and then thanked the advisor. The smiling boy asked if Ariel had heard the new news. It turns out that in the Maitland district, a festival begins next weekend. He stated that the streets will be crowded, so they should send a carriage to accompany her. The girl asked, why would the people of His Highness accompany her? Ariel understood that Cedric's advisor was not aware of her breakup. The lady declared that she no longer had any need to see him on weekends. Ariel was tired of having to repeat that so many times. The boy asked if Ariel had regretted her decision. She declared that she was not planning any wedding. Ariel asked them to send the Onyxia sent to the Duke's mansion. The advisor asked her to send it herself, to which she replied that she had servants, and he shouldn't worry. The advisor bowed and left the palace. The lady handed the small box to the maid, asking her to throw it away. Meanwhile, at His Majesty's mansion, the advisor declared that he had returned and was ready to work. He looked up when he was informed that Ariel did not regret the breakup at all. The man stated that the lady wasn't just calm, but seemed very satisfied, and she didn't regret anything she had done. Cedric smiled, understanding that this relationship was a whim of his, and she herself would end it. The master sensed that Ariel was too strange. She didn't even complain about the delay, nor did she expect anything. He understood that this girl had forced him to be by her side for a year. The boy thought there must be a strong reason to end that relationship. The advisor supposed that perhaps Cedric had offended Lady Ariel in some way. The only thing Cedric could do was arrive 10 minutes late that day. The boy asked if this breakup wasn't good news for his master. At this, the master only became furious, repeating the last phrase in disbelief. The advisor continued, since the man never felt anything for her and only dated her for the promised perfume. He didn't understand what was wrong with Ariel, because before, the perfume was her main weapon to make the boy she was obsessed with fall in love. The advisor insisted she simply stopped loving him without further explanation. But Cedric retorted, impossible. Her sickening obsession lasted a year. It doesn't evaporate just like that. He was unaware of the reason for the breakup, but the situation played in his favor. Cedric didn't understand why he was so bothered by Ariel leaving him, if he never loved her. The man looked away, declaring that the room smelled terrible. He sent the advisor to find servants to bring him ice water. Ariel spent days in the perfumery, studying her notebook and reading recipes, memories that she had buried deeply due to the illness. They surfaced upon reading. The young woman experimented with all the aromas, mixing them together. Finally, she created the perfume she longed for so much. Ariel checked her notebook, confirming every written ingredient. Her gaze fell upon a couple of rare recipes, perfumes to heal internal wounds. To attract people, Ariel realized that she could be a true sorceress, thanks to her gift with perfume. The lady created a perfume whose goal was to instantly erase tiredness. The lady sprayed the perfume on herself, trying to check if it worked. Ariel felt nothing, until one of the maids volunteered. The lady smiled and accepted. After all, the maid also helped her, and deserved to try the scent they had created together. Upon spraying the perfume on the maid, she inhaled it and closed her eyes, waiting for the miracle. Suddenly, the young woman started running in circles, saying she felt an explosion of energy. Ariel was astonished to see that the effect was immediate. The maid started working, mixing petals and trying to unload that energy into something. The redhead shouted that she needed more work. It turned out that the ingredients to create the perfume had run out. They decided they should go to the Zenon district to buy everything necessary. Upon arriving there, the lady was amazed. The district was beautiful and vibrant. The girls collected a bunch of flowers, the most varied and aromatic. But suddenly Ariel tripped and fell, throwing all the flowers on the ground. Some ladies appeared, claiming those flowers wouldn't be enough, looking at Ariel with disdain. The lady declared that those flowers were too miserable to catch Lord Cedric's attention. The ladies started laughing, saying they heard Ariel left the date. Cedric is a busy man. Ariel smiled, realizing the ladies were trying to annoy her with that. The girl thanked the ladies for worrying about her feelings. Collecting all the flowers, she replied that it was no longer necessary because His Highness and she were over. The show-off with the fan was shocked by such a loud declaration. Everyone began to pity the girl sarcastically, saying it was cruel of her to abandon Ariel. They started saying that hardly anyone would take someone who was abandoned after a long relationship. Ariel smiled and declared that statement offended His Highness. She replied that there was nothing strange about people breaking up, and that Cedric would surely be liked by someone after the breakup. They were amazed that the girl was the one who initiated the breakup. Concluding, to prove her point, The girl asked the show-off to introduce her to a young lord. She declared that, instead of a cold duke, she preferred a cute and kind boy. The lady thought Ariel was mocking her, unable to believe it was true. She declared she would remember those words and left with her group of friends. Ariel smiled, relieved to know she no longer had anything to worry about. Meanwhile, his lordship received a package from Ariel. The duke understood that the young woman kept her promise and sent the requested perfume. The advisor suggested trying the perfume, recalling the previous love potion scent. He refused and sprayed the perfume on himself, impressed by Ariel's talent. The man wondered what recipe the young woman used, since all her perfumes failed. It turned out the box had a false bottom and there was another perfume there, the one for relieving tiredness. There was also a note with instructions on how this perfume should also help. The man took the vial, thinking it was another trap to seduce or make someone fall in love with a perfume. The duke decided to check if Ariel had added anything suspicious to the fragrance. He couldn't test it on himself, so he sprayed the vial onto his advisor. The boy felt as if he were lying in a warm and sunny field, with a soft breeze caressing his skin. He started running again and saying he was going to work, brimming with adrenaline and energy. The man was amused by that reaction, but decided to take a look at the note. Ariel had little of that perfume left and started wondering if it would be enough. Holding the notebook, the young woman instantly understood those pages were worth thousands of gold coins. The maids asked Lady Ariel to come down to the table, as her father was waiting for her with an important announcement. Afterwards, they informed her that the gentleman was waiting for her. The lady approached the table, where the head of the family was waiting for her. With a threatening face, or rather serious, staring at her fixedly, the man ordered her to sit at the table. Wiping his face with a napkin, he declared he wanted to tell her something. The father said that Ariel must marry urgently. This greatly surprised the young woman, since she had recently broken up with Cedric. He explained that the rumors about her breakup with the duke had spread. The young woman had received a proposal from the son, from people who matter in currency. The father explained that she had to marry him and bring the son into the family. This year Ariel turns 23 and is already of marriageable age. The thing is, noble women are often married off for political reasons. Suddenly, the lady got a chill. She was given a second chance and didn't want to marry a stranger. While the daughter agonized over her fate, the man thought the young man was very handsome. In short, the lady will marry a handsome, tall and thin boy. But Ariel didn't want that. The young woman tried to explain to her father that she wanted to enjoy her freedom a little. At this, the duke asked what the young woman desired, as he could grant her any whim to save the family reputation. The man declared he would grant any whim if she answered affirmatively to the marriage proposal. Ariel smiled and asked for a lot of money this month. At this, the father grimaced and stared at her. The man declared he had heard that the young woman had taken up an old hobby. To the man, perfumery was too strange and silly a hobby to think it could bring any benefit. He announced he would give the lady 20,000 bis for a single date with her suitor. Smiling, the girl accepted. Although the money seemed like a pittance to her, her new fiancé was a secondary character in the novel. He was that type who, in the novel, kidnapped the protagonist by drugging her. Just by seeing his smile and the dark circles under his eyes, the lady wanted to flee, realizing the suitor was crazy. And drugged, she inquired, asking what disgusting scent emanated from the guy. He asked what was wrong, to which she replied that the smell was very strange. The fiancé claimed he also felt something similar, and that they should notify the manager. Ariel started rummaging through her bag, looking for her new perfume. The man marveled, saying he knew the lady collected perfumes and that it was useful and interesting. He tried to flatter her, but she sprayed perfume directly in his face. Immediately after, Ariel apologized because the aroma was unbearable. The boy silently stared blankly after that aroma. The girl started waving her hand in front of his face, trying to revive him. Suddenly, he smiled sharply, and looking into her eyes, asked fascinated what she had sprayed on him. The blonde claimed he knew that sensation he felt after being sprayed. The guy, with a demented smile, declared that it was an aphrodisiac. Suddenly, the girl remembered that people who use drugs are very sensitive to smells and perceive them differently. It seems the new suitor is not as good as his father claimed, but quite the opposite. The boy declared he had never seen ladies so bold, as anyone would run away from such audacity. Immediately after, the guy, like a madman, claimed to understand the hints, unlike others. The girl, terrified, quickly pulled her hand away and screamed for him to let her go and never touch her again. Apparently, the guy wasn't just crazy, but a complete lunatic, and he started insisting that he loved all the ladies' dismissals. Turning her back, Ariel realized that smell could only come from drugs. The man not only looked like a drug addict and crazy, but he also behaved like one. Suddenly, the blonde smiled again and pulled her by the arm, saying that if they were on the same wavelength, there was nothing to wait for. The terrified girl didn't feel like going anywhere with that unhinged person, so she screamed, calling the waiter, hoping for help. The waiter was perplexed, and Ariel begged him to call security because the young man was taking too many liberties. The girl was left open-mouthed when the guy started pressing his hand against her chest. The unbalanced man declared that his heart beat for his beloved lady. The lady decided she would have to correct the recipe when she returned home. The blonde turned to the waiter, saying the lady was just shy and that his safety was not a concern. Suddenly, Cedric appeared in the doorway. He, with a furious and rage-filled look, looked at the couple, seeing violence against the girl. His gaze was full of jealousy and fury, as no one has the right to touch his ex-girlfriend without her consent. He took the insolent man by the hand and asked what was happening there, glaring at the boy. The man shouted, frightened, saying that his lordship had misunderstood him. He began to justify himself, saying that he and Ariel were having a date. Ariel watched all this, trying not to get too involved in the fight. The boy declared that the blonde had gone completely crazy. He extended his hand to her and, taking it, led her behind him. Cedric asked what he could do to calm the lady down, but drawing his dagger, the boy asked if he could wound the madman in the same spot. The man fell to his knees, begging for his life. The boy began to say that Ariel was seeking attention and embarrassment with her rejection, but those words were refuted. The man kicked the rich man's son in the chest, making him fall, and then said that the Marquis hadn't even taught him good manners. And then he asked the guard, who had already arrived, to take the boy away. The man turned to Ariel and asked what she was doing there, to which she replied that she had the same question for him. Cedric wanted to know why the young woman was in the company of such a man, to which Ariel answered that her father insisted on the meeting with the Marquis's son. Ariel concluded that if she had known how this meeting would end, she would never have come. The lady smiled awkwardly and thanked the boy. The man was shocked that just after they separated, she was already looking for a husband candidate. Although their relationship was based on a contract, it lasted more than half a year. Cedric declared that in these situations, certain rules must exist. He clarified that she should have discussed it with him before getting involved in marriage matters. Ariel hurried to say that, anyway, their relationship was burdensome to her. At this, he just looked at her grimly, implying that his feelings had not cooled down, and that a spark still existed between them. Although they were a couple in public, a couple popular for their reputation, if they see her with another man right after breaking up with Cedric, rumors will fly like gunpowder. The girl understood that he also wasn't comfortable and that she must follow etiquette rules at all costs. The lady curtsied and apologized with great regret. Suddenly, he confronts her. When did you plan to date me and then look for another? You were obsessed before. In reality, Ariel had never stopped to think about that. She wondered if she really had any choice in all this. After all, she knew she could never become Duchess Evans. In an instant, to her surprise, he, reluctant to let her go, asked if she hadn't regretted her decision. At this, she smiled and declared that, of course, she was not going to change her mind. The man concluded that if this was his beloved's wish, he should not object and apologized for asking. Moreover, Cedric stated that his perfumes were of great help. They made his assistant more efficient. He was already gone, and she regretted not asking about the news perfumes, specifically their effectiveness. Although they are surely fine, they say no news is good news. In the castle, Ariel's father was furious. A letter had arrived from the Marquis's mansion. The young woman was filled with fear and shame before her father, regarding what that letter might contain. The man tore up the letter when he found out his daughter had sent a gentleman to prison. Ariel said the man deserved it and that the guard was right to arrest him. The father asked what duel had occurred in the restaurant between two young men. Ariel claimed Cedric hadn't done anything so serious as to make him angry. He only announced that he had sullied his honor. He reported that he said she had sprayed him with perfume to seduce him. The man was enraged, realizing the young woman was plotting something. Ariel tried to explain that she only sprayed perfume on him because he smelled terrible. The man, furious, told her she should abandon that horrible hobby. He was hysterical, Rumors about that encounter were spreading throughout the kingdom. The man stated that, because of that, hardly anyone would want to marry Ariel. The man shouted that Ariel must immediately go to the guard barracks and apologize, and ask for Rob's release. The lady declared that even if she wanted to, she couldn't go there and do what her father asked. The reason was that Cedric himself ordered his detention, so it would be rude of her to interfere. The father understood that if the Duke was involved, he couldn't do anything about it. The father declared that he must find a good match for his daughter before the rumors spread, so that no one dares to denigrate the honor of his family and tarnish their reputation. The girl didn't understand how the man came up with that. It was absurd. Fortunately for the father, he still had another letter saved from Algin. The young woman first wanted to know how old the new suitor was, as that was crucial right now. It turned out he was already 40 years old, which left the lady in a state of shock. The man had decided to marry off his daughter for convenience. The young woman sighed and asked if she should marry a rich man as soon as possible. He answered affirmatively, as he had strived for her education precisely for that. At that moment, Ariel understood that she was simply a bargaining chip for that man, a coin that would bring more wealth and more benefits to the family. The lady took that same letter and apologized, as for now she was considering handsome candidates her age. The lady declared that if she failed to marry a rich man, she herself would compensate for the losses. The man smiled mockingly and asked her how she would compensate them herself. He wanted to know how she would do it, since spending money was her only skill. The man was right. Ariel didn't know fencing or how to control mana, but she had a talent, her perfumery. The count might think it was child's play, but her perfumes were no laughing matter. They were a powerful weapon. The young woman decided to buy the flower shop, but alas, she was missing 19,500,000. The lady didn't know what to do, as she believed Ariel would be simply independent of family income. It wouldn't be enough even selling all her clothes and jewelry, but she didn't want to open a street stall. The maid asked what was wrong, as Ariel seemed confused. She started to explain the situation, as if someone desperately needed a lot of money. Ariel begged the girl for advice, as she desperately needed it. The maid suggested taking out a loan, and Ariel started thinking about who could help her. The maid replied that she could ask the head butler for help. Ariel tried to say it was for a friend, but the maid knew it was for her. Suddenly, an unknown gray-haired man offered his opinion on how to start a business. He suggested the lady look for an investor to make it easier. The young man affirmed that he knew who Ariel was, but he didn't want to be misunderstood. After all, Ariel realized she was very popular, an exceptional perfumer. The maid asked how he knew all that, since he worked at the flower shop where she bought ingredients. The gray-haired man exclaimed with admiration that all the florists had heard of her, and other perfumers also mentioned her talent. The lady understood that her recipes were the key to finding an investor, and the sooner she found one, the faster she could start her business. The lady took his hands, thanking him for everything he did. Ariel smiled with relief, walking towards the future. Finally, she had a solution. The maid affirmed it was a brilliant idea and ran after her, excited. Apparently, Ariel knew exactly where to find that ideal investor. An event where the most powerful, respectable, and wealthy nobles gathered to show off. The perfect choice was, without a doubt, the most prestigious ball in the city. Among so much wealth, she would surely find someone willing to invest in her perfume empire. But upon arrival, gazes judged Ariel. The rumors preceded her. Ariel herself didn't understand what was happening with the atmosphere. Before, balls were pure fun. They said the lady had no shame, that she walked with her nose high. And how did it bother them that Ariel annoyed the Duke, and even locked up poor Mr. Rob? Suddenly, a girl roughly pushed the lady, saying she hadn't seen her. Ariel laughed nervously and said nothing was wrong, although she knew it had been done on purpose. She didn't understand what was happening to her reputation. Before, she was highly respected by people. With this atmosphere, the young woman couldn't even show up. Suddenly, a stranger defended Ariel. She said it wasn't she who locked up Mr. Marcel, but Mr. Cedric. She declared that if anyone had problems, they should file a formal complaint with his lordship. And then she addressed the crowd, asking them not to spread unfounded rumors. It turned out that this girl was Charlotte Sinos, Marcel's only daughter, who concentrates all power in her hands. There is always someone around the Marquis's daughter, because of her lineage. Moreover, the attractiveness of this young woman has also played an important role. As the queen of all receptions, she sets trends and fashion. The girl concluded that she should thank everyone, because thanks to them, she got closer to Charlotte. The lady approached Ariel and asked if she was all right. The young woman thought it was her chance to get closer, saying the atmosphere was a bit suffocating. The lady sniffed and asked if Lady Ariel had applied perfume. Charlotte revealed that the young woman smelled like a cherry garden. Ariel smiled and thanked her protector, admitting she was a little doubtful, as it was the first time she had created a perfume with that scent. Charlotte asked if the girl had made the perfume herself, to which she tried to prove it. As a sign of gratitude, she offered the girl a new fragrance. At this, Charlotte declared that she must refuse it, because her body could not tolerate perfume. She was allergic to alcohol, something the girl, of course, already knew. And in the novel, Charlotte's sensitivity to perfume was repeatedly mentioned. Then, Ariel smiled and affirmed that she had created that perfume without using alcohol. Ariel was immensely happy about Charlotte's surprise. It was her first attempt, and it was a success. Ariel asked the lady to try it, so she could understand what she was talking about. At this, the blonde smiled distrustfully, but she agreed anyway. Ariel sprayed her wrist, intensifying the scent. A sweet lilac scent flooded the entire space. The girl felt a pleasant sensation, as if she were surrounded by flowers. Ariel began to explain how she made the perfume, explaining that she used a Perfumer Mana device to create it, so even allergic people can use it. She smiled, asking if that was the real reason she had come to the ball. Charlotte astutely deduced that Ariel was looking for an investor. She began to explain her theory. At first, she said it was just a hobby, but the result is better than that of a professional. She concluded that Ariel wanted to get her attention. The lady let her know that she had realized that she used the fact that she wears perfume for advertising purposes. Charlotte perfectly understood that this perfume was made especially for her. Ariel blushed deeply at such flattery and the lady's insight. Charlotte declared that she had nothing to be ashamed of. Anyone would fall in love with such a perfume. She affirmed that she had no skills in commerce, but that undoubtedly the perfume was worth it. The lady clarified that these compliments did not imply that she would become her investor. The blonde smiled and announced that she was inviting Ariel to her family's ball, full of wealthy people. The lady was astonished to have deserved such an invitation, blushed even more, and looked away. Meanwhile, the counselor asked if Cedric planned to attend the ball. The man replied that the boy should send a confirmation to Charlotte. The maids began preparing Ariel for the ball, asking if she was nervous. Ariel feared Lena would worry, so she didn't tell her anything. But what would she do if this happened again? The maid began to question the young woman about who would be at the ball and why she was going. The loyal maid tried to encourage her, telling her she had the best perfume. She declared that she just had to say it if anyone dared to offend her. At this, the lady smiled, realizing that the maid was acting strangely. Ariel concluded that she had already gotten through one such night, and she would no longer tolerate such treatment. The lady made a decision. She would strive to change the opinion people had of her. Finally, the lady was dressed and ready, looking simply stunning. She had a series of rules for that night, and one of them was to approach first, to show she wasn't hostile. It was crucial to make it clear that she was not an enemy, but a business mama looking for an investor. But due to her own insecurity, the girl spoke very confusingly and stuttered constantly. Everyone, upon hearing her last name, couldn't hide their emotions, made faces, and asked again. And then, directly, they started saying they were very busy and that it was best if she left. The girl already felt lucky for not having received insults and for having been able to finally introduce herself. She decided to put more effort in and desperately approached people at the ball. But absolutely, everyone Ariel tried to talk to made faces, and they looked at her with distrust. Ariel felt very uncomfortable. The girl was sitting in a corner watching how people made her feel out of place. Ariel didn't understand what was happening to her and why those people acted as if she had killed someone. She didn't understand what she had to do so that people, upon hearing her name, wouldn't make faces of disgust. Suddenly, Charlotte approached her, asking if she was enjoying the evening. The lady decided to be honest with the blonde, telling her that, in reality, she hadn't managed to start a conversation with anyone. At this, Charlotte smiled, replying that she thought she knew what the problem was and took Ariel by the chin, asking her what the main value Ariel could offer tonight was. It was complicated, since the people gathered there were rich celebrities and promising businessmen, eager to obtain something. She explained that, in a place like that, the most important thing was money. Then she added that these people didn't know her talent for fragrances, and only profit would attract them. Upon realizing that people were interested in money and business, it was like a light bulb went off for the girl. She understood that if she wanted to make herself known as a businesswoman needing an investor, she had to present the perfumes first, not herself. Perhaps the protagonist is someone else, but for her, Ariel is the main one. The young woman declared that she had fallen in love with her perfume and wanted to buy or acquire more. Lady Charlotte was right. The girl had to show off her perfumes in all their splendor. Suddenly, the lady addressed the people who were at the ball and who, until recently, were making faces of disgust. She sprayed a little perfume, saying she had made them herself, and offered them to try. One of the ladies, after looking at them, was encouraged to try. This perfume was precious, and of course, the girl loved its scent and the effect it produced. Everyone in the room exclaimed that it smelled even better than real flowers. Ariel smiled and thanked everyone for their flattering words. And then, the lady decided to announce herself, saying there would be her own market, where even more perfumes like these could be tested. She hurried to say that she needed a large sum for it, when someone abruptly approached from behind. A girl with a bob cut asked curiously what was going on there. Immediately after, she asked who had made that perfume, learning that Ariel had created it. Charlotte concluded that the ladies would find common ground. This lady had much deeper knowledge of perfumery. Ariel was surprised that the new lady was as inexperienced as her, so she deduced they could be rivals. But the good kind, Ariel clumsily confirmed, having created that perfume herself. The rival quickly said that it was obvious it was a low-quality, cheap item. Ariel was in shock at such envious audacity and didn't understand why. If that girl was a brilliant perfumer, she couldn't sense what it lacked. But being talented, it was the first time she sold her creations. Ariel thought the lady might point out her mistakes and help her with something. The girl smiled timidly and asked her to repeat what she had said before. At this, she repeated all the insults towards the perfume, without shame or fear of offending Ariel. Not wanting to appear rude, the lady smiled and asked her to point out her mistakes, since she was such a talented competitor. She looked away and explained that the refreshing scent would have a citrus base, and that the main ingredients would be lemon and orange. Furthermore, she explained that these perfumes would not last long. At this, Ariel asked, how did it differ from common citruses if the citrus scent evaporates quickly? And the professional suddenly asked what the special touch of Ariel's perfume was. She asked her to spray it and try it, before calling it nonsense. Everyone started laughing, saying that an expert like Lady Magnus couldn't be wrong. She declared that Lady Ariel should learn from Lady Magnus. Ariel concluded that these people showed which side they were on, and always would be. The lady understood that she had to fight to prove the worth of this fragrance. She snatched the perfume from Magnus's hands with ease. She declared that first she would present the fragrance to her, and then explain everything. The girl was just about to spray perfume in her rival's face. When the hero of the night appeared, Charlotte greeted Cedric with a smile. He greeted the ladies, thanking them for the invitation. It turned out that Cedric was the main investor, and he would decide who to support. When she turned around, she saw Ariel, visibly nervous upon seeing her ex. Cedric asked what she and the other lady were discussing. The rival replied sincerely that they were talking about Lady Ariel's perfume. She started ranting, saying she didn't understand how she dared to show up with something so cheap. Suddenly, the young man raised his voice, defending his ex. He asked if Magnus had even tried the perfume. The Count declared that this girl's perfumes have a unique property. He recounted that, thanks to the perfumes, his subordinate's efficiency soared, and he still uses them happily. The young woman looked away and asked if Magnus would be capable of creating something similar. The man told her not to talk nonsense without knowing, looking her sternly in the eyes. Ariel was shocked to see that Cedric had decided to defend her. But anyway, Ariel was annoyed that she didn't need help. She just wanted her scent to be recognized. All the ladies, like a herd, started commenting that, if his lordship defended her, Lady Winston's perfumes were worth trying. Ariel diverted her gaze and said she would be absent for a moment and would return. That said, she left the ball to devise the plan she needed. At this, Cedric looked at her and asked why she was leaving. The lady decreed that if Magnus dared to cross her path, she would regret it. From this moment on, Ariel will force everyone to write a book about her perfume. She understood that for today it was enough, and she would return home to perfect the recipe. But suddenly, Cedric's harsh voice stopped Ariel dead in her tracks. He was looking at her anxiously, moving a little closer to her. She asked if the party wasn't at its peak, and why he was paying attention to her again. The boy felt uncomfortable about Ariel's sudden departure. It was strange, knowing Cedric's character, that he would worry about her mood. Ariel scolded herself. She had to be strong and not allow that man to get close. But suddenly, the young woman declared that the Count's behavior had greatly displeased her. She explained that they are no longer together, so he has no business interfering in her affairs. She asked him if he had ended their relationship. Ariel declared that he had interfered brazenly and that she could handle Lady Magnus. He explained that because of his meddling, everything got out of control. Saying this, Ariel didn't feel calm at all. She wasn't entirely sure that Cedric understood. The counselor handed the documents to Cedric, stating that His Highness arrived early. Suddenly, he asked if his actions were causing problems. At this, the boy was frankly perplexed. He asked why he acts as he pleases, without caring about others. He didn't understand what was wrong with His Highness. It seemed like someone had scolded him. The counselor quickly contradicted himself. Who would dare insult the Duke? He quickly deduced that this had to do with Lady Winston. When asked how he knew, he replied that she used to be the cause of his bad mood. He asked Cedric to share his problem, as he could give him good advice. The Duke started speaking, saying the lady's lost gaze spurred him to help. The man himself didn't understand why he had followed her at that moment. He tried to explain that she seemed distressed and he couldn't act otherwise. The man fearfully remembered her desperately irritated gaze and her words about his selfishness. The counselor was astonished. Lady Winston had scolded His Highness. He admitted, with a hint of concern, that the situation really worried him. The blonde realized that Cedric felt something for the girl and found it endearing. He didn't know why, but Lady Winston had changed a lot, so there was no problem. Suddenly, the counselor suggested that he apologize to Lady Winston. The boy tried to explain why that might have upset the lady, despite his good intentions. The man avoided her gaze and sighed, accepting the idea of asking Ariel for forgiveness. He started writing a letter, ordering it to be sent to the Winston mansion at dawn. The maid handed Cedric's letter to Ariel with a sweet smile. She read the letter, which said that the man had behaved very recklessly at the soiree. It told her that Ariel's words had made him reflect, and that he wanted to see her to apologize. Cedric invited the lady to the restaurant to offer his apologies. She arrived in a small carriage, pulled by 2 white horses. The girl thought she had gone too far yesterday, as no one had treated Cedric like that before, and he must have been shocked. But she concluded that receiving an apology wouldn't be bad, which is why she was there. Therefore, Ariel was very nervous, as she didn't want to offend anyone and then suffer the consequences. The young woman asked the carriage to stop, as she wanted to walk a little. He pointed in one direction, indicating to the lady where the restaurant was located. There was still time until the agreed hour, so the girl decided to take a walk. But suddenly, a repulsive sound was heard. Someone had just photographed Ariel from behind, camouflaging himself among the crowd. Noticing the camera, the lady was surprised, but even more so, she was frightened. She shouted for the man with the camera in his hands to take it away immediately, attracting the attention of the crowd. The stranger acted very strangely and ran away. She snatched, or rather, caught his camera, completely shocked. The girl didn't understand why the guy had fled so quickly. It was illogical. Seeing his attempt to flee, she was already devising a plan in her head. She ran after him, shouting for people to stop that perverted man. He ran, shouting that he was only following orders. But suddenly, Cedric tripped him and he fell to the ground. Thanks to that, Ariel caught the degenerate. The man asked what the hell that poor wretch had done. Ariel could barely speak. She needed to catch her breath. The man suggested they talk in a restaurant. They made the stranger kneel. They accused him of photographing people without permission. She affirmed that she recovered the camera he tried to throw away while fleeing. Cedric decided it was imperative to review those photos. There he found a mess of compromising photos of her. He stated that he had his reasons and that he would try to get to the bottom of the matter. Ariel was calm. After all, there was only one photo of her. Upon learning that the guy also photographed Ariel, she frowned furiously. The man begged them to call the guard to punish him. They took the man away, leaving her ex completely confused. Cedric apologized, his head bowed in shame. He blamed himself guiltily, saying that he had arranged a meeting to apologize. But once again, he caused her problems for which he had to apologize. The girl didn't understand why the man apologized so much for every small detail. Ariel looked away and affirmed that she was fine and that he shouldn't worry. But suddenly, Ariel smiled and declared that she understood she had behaved rudely and that she wanted to apologize. The man declared that he hadn't treated her with due respect for a long time and that he must compensate her for everything. And he added that, even considering that their relationship was tied to a contract. He couldn't take care of her. He also explained that even in the difficulties she experienced after the breakup, he was to blame. The man offered the lady compensation. Suddenly, the lady went into shock. The money would come in handy. With a snap, the man assigned a personal bodyguard to the girl. The count declared that Aaron would protect Ariel excellently and vouched for her with his life. Upon removing his helmet, Ariel saw how handsome her bodyguard was. The boy affirmed that Lady Winston could trust him completely. Cedric, jealous of the lady, asked her to put on the helmet. A gentleman should not rebel so easily. Ariel replied that it would be very hot standing with a helmet on. Ariel didn't understand why Cedric gave her his knight, to which he replied that he could defend himself, but Ariel would need help more than once. It sounded strange and a bit offensive to the lady, but she concluded that nothing good would come if something like that happened again. The man was a recognized knight of Cedric, so he could be trusted. Ariel declared that she would temporarily accept all his kindness. As compensation, Ariel smiled and said the knight could return when he regained his strength, since she could take care of herself. At this, the man knelt and bowed. Taking the lady's hand, he kissed it, asking her to take care of him. The girl smiled, and then shyly declared that she was leaving and hurried away. The man asked if he should accompany Ariel, to which she replied that it was not necessary, for she was not a little girl who couldn't even go out alone, and then explained that her carriage was very close. She asked Cedric not to worry, as Irene was nearby, at which the man frowned too much for it to go unnoticed. She was about to leave when the man stopped her again. He wanted to ask about the scent of Onyxia. The man declared that he wanted to change the contract, which surprised Ariel. The girl immediately thought there were problems with the delivery, and then she thought the man might lower the price, paying with a bodyguard. Then he started talking about the payment, but suddenly declared that he would double it. But in return, he asked to resume the eternal meetings, twice a week. The man affirmed that he could pay even more, since the commission is very complicated. Ariel couldn't understand why Cedric was behaving like this suddenly. Still, Onyxia perfumes are her strongest capital, and if the payment increases, she will be able to open her shop faster. Ariel smiled and happily accepted. One must know how to take advantage of any kindness. The girl gave Cedric her smile again, greeted him, and said she would wait for their next meeting. To this, the Duke simply asked her to be careful on the way home. The head maid had many questions when Irene arrived at the palace. To this, Ariel replied that one should not fear that two-meter guy. Irene nodded and introduced himself, saying he was a bodyguard sent by the Duke. The maid smiled and said she was happy to know that Ariel was protected. She approached the bodyguard and announced that now they could punish all the wicked ones who dared to harm the young lady. Ariel was truly shocked and could only say that, fortunately, they would get along well. Raphael entered the room, bringing the ingredients that had been delivered today, and she left them in the workshop. Upon entering the perfumery, she smelled that aroma, a scent so clean and clear, so fresh, that it would dispel all unnecessary thoughts. She reached out her hand towards the new fir branches, emanating freshness in the air. The maid suddenly suggested crushing it at that very moment, as quickly as possible. This time, they used a magic artifact for the essence. Ariel made the decision that she had to choose the target for this aroma. Irene was standing behind her, watching attentively. A clear, pure, and refreshing aroma. It was exactly what drove Ariel's new bodyguard crazy. Looking at the guard, she concluded that she had already decided on a concept. The lady took the boy's hand, asking for his help. The bodyguard became quite ashamed and started getting nervous. When the man entered the room, everyone showed great interest. Ariel bought very expensive clothes for the boy, seeing him as a valuable investment. Furthermore, it suits him wonderfully. Irene asked why all this, to which Ariel begged him not to treat her like a lady. He inquired, asking why she thinks he will actually be useful to her. To this, she replied that it was obvious, as he could help her a lot with her plan. Ariel made the decision. Irene will become an icon of the social club. The girl sprayed a new product on the young man's wrist. The aroma, called Morning Walk, had cedar extract as its base. Ariel added bergamot and lively touches of bamboo, finishing with refreshing lemon. Ariel's bodyguard was completely astonished by the young woman's talent. Suddenly, a young man appeared in the hall, declaring that he still didn't know Ariel, and he wishes to remedy it. The girl ran towards him, introducing herself as a genius perfumer. He affirmed having heard of her, as she created Lady Charlotte's perfume. Ariel said she loved it, and that it was a great honor for her to start being recognized. The stranger announced that the lilac aroma had simply intoxicated him. Smelling the bodyguard, he deduced that this refreshing and unmatched aroma was also Ariel's work. The boy simply, without any emotion, confirmed these words. The man began to admire his scent, saying it was like being in a pine forest, and that this pure and refreshing smell gave him peace. Since the aroma suits the Lord wonderfully, that feeling is intensified. Afterwards, the long-haired man announced that he was very interested and thought he could use her perfume. She began to explain that such an aroma would not suit him. If she used it on herself, it wouldn't create the desired effect. She asked if the gentleman knew that scent creates an impression about the person. An invigorating scent is energy. A warm scent is tenderness. A luxurious scent can give an impression. He affirmed that, perhaps by spraying it on himself, he would be on par with that bodyguard, especially with his face and gaze. The men literally threw money at the girl, asking where and how they could acquire that perfume. And afterwards, he even affirmed that he would literally buy 3 bottles from her. The lady knew that these people were VIPs of the social club, and rumors about her perfume would spread instantly. Ariel, happy about the money, declared that she would send the order directly to the mansion. The girl in the perfumery had poured quite a few bottles on herself. She got extremely angry and started growling with rage, trembling and grinding her teeth. The lady screamed that she was very annoyed, that because of that Ariel Winston, she had so many problems. Everything went downhill from the moment they ignored her. All the investors wanted and asked for magic potions, as if it were that easy, as if Ariel could make them. The property that the rival reviewed suddenly increased in value. Opening the salon might be a huge mistake. It seems the lady went crazy. She hated Ariel for humiliating her and making a fool of her in front of the investors. She swore she wouldn't forgive her. She would really pay her back in kind. Suddenly, a shadow appeared behind her, asking if it was Magnus. The stranger smiled and said that Ariel had indeed humiliated her in front of everyone. Magnus asked him who he was, but the stranger asked her not to be so abrupt. Then, he proposed joining forces against Ariel, an explosive alliance. But the lady wasn't going to affirm anything or collaborate with anyone without knowing who that guy was. The man took off his hood and introduced himself as Asi, the very 5th son of the empire. The girl was dumbfounded. The prince in person was proposing collaboration against her worst enemy. When asked why he was helping her, he replied furiously that he detested Cedric Evans. He handed her a photo of Evans, insulting the powerful lord with every word. Upon seeing those compromising photographs, she didn't know what to feel, she could only grimace. The lady was stunned, asking why the man had been spying on Evans. He replied that he had tried to find her weaknesses for a long time, but without success. At this, the girl affirmed that it was logical. After all, he was the perfect duke. But he continued, revealing that he had discovered who Ariel Winston really was. His obsession with her was Cedric's only concern, and then he let slip that he knew they had just broken up, which surprised the girl. They seemed so close. The guy replied that their relationship had always seemed suspicious to him. That's precisely why he decided to captivate Ariel's heart with his charm. The lady said that was nonsense, to which he replied that, to win, everything is fair. He proposed to Fanta to shake hands, telling her he would help her, so she had to ruin Ariel's business. Then, according to the plan, when she is discouraged, the boy will make his move and make her fall in love. Fanta concluded that this wild plan posed no danger. What they didn't understand was, if that guy felt anything for Ariel. The boy thought it would be fun to see Cedric, the rejected one, drowning in tears. And Fanta thought it would be great to laugh at how Ariel's business sinks, and she ruins herself. With a handshake, the man and the girl sealed the deal. The man smiled maliciously, saying it was time to start. A few days later, Ariel was walking through the city, calling Raphael. The boy greeted the lady, averting his gaze from her little flowers. The lady thanked the boy for the ingredients, saying they were a great help. She declared that her new perfume, based on cedar extract, was a resounding success. The perfumes were not just popular, they literally monopolized the male market. The lady affirmed that at this rate, she could soon open her own shop. The boy looked at her awkwardly, asking her to take a walk with him. He told her that yesterday he opened a new salon and thought she should take a look. Upon arriving there, the girl realized it was the new Magnus salon. She decided to spy, to see how she had organized the salon, noticing that there were tons of products. Besides perfumes, for an instant, The girl felt curiosity to know if rumors about her conflict with that rival had already spread. The boy affirmed that if she took a look at the salon, it could be beneficial for her. The salon was full of people celebrating the opening of Lady Magnus's salon. The aromas weren't bad, and the price was quite affordable, which made people very happy. Suddenly, the lady saw her own perfume for sale, with a lilac scent subtly enveloping the body. This was very suspicious, and it seems the girl really stole Ariel's perfumes. Smelling another perfume, she sensed that same cedar aroma, which apparently had also been stolen without further ado. The boy asked the girl to look at the perfume's name. One title was a memory of first love, and others a night walk. That's exactly what the boy wanted to show, that this shop stole all her works. Ariel couldn't even reply, as the situation was clear as water. Fronta truly displayed her precious recipes like trifles, thus taking revenge on Ariel with humiliation. Ariel was furious, understanding that Fronta Magnus was really challenging her, trying to humiliate her, and making a big fool of her. Suddenly, Fronta appeared with her little friend, declaring that, finally, a cheap item was entering such a luxurious shop. She declared that it had been a long time since they saw each other, emphasizing that the genius perfumer Ariel Winston went door to door, humiliating her. Ariel was terribly angry and irritated by such comments from her worst enemy. Suddenly, the girl looked up at the boy behind Magnus, smiling mockingly, nodding knowingly. Ariel understood that she had seen that familiar face somewhere. Seeing the girl's look, he winked at her and smiled, trying to seduce her. Suddenly, Ariel remembered where she had seen that pretty face. She understood that he was the fifth prince of the Bel Air Empire. In the book, he appeared as a handsome gallant, and they described him as the Empress's great headache. The most important characteristic of Assi, as a character, is that he is Cedric's nephew. Probably because Cedric was too perfect, Assi hated and envied his uncle very much. He asked Ariel, trying to coax out her identity. The man looked her in the eyes, asking if she had any complaint about him. Fronta quickly boasted that her investor was a member of the imperial family. Magnus began to humiliate and gloat over the girl, telling her that Ariel didn't have a single cent. The rival smiled and told Ariel not to worry, because someday she would find someone who saw the talent she lacked. Ariel couldn't understand how that woman was selling stolen perfumes with such audacity. The girl assumed that Assi had surely been deceived, and that was why he was the investor. The young woman decided she wouldn't stand by idly and asked her what inspired her to create those perfumes. Trying to catch her red-handed, Ariel immediately clarified that that perfume seemed very familiar to her. Too familiar, I would say. Fronta fell silent, whereupon Ariel, irritated, demanded she say something. Assi tried to defend the situation, saying that, obviously, Fronta wouldn't answer. If he had devised the concept, Assi lied as best he could, inventing a story about how. That day, the aroma of lilac and bamboo captivated him, asking them to leave poor Fronta alone. Ariel was in shock. Assi was in cahoots with that girl. He hadn't fooled her, not by a long shot. Suddenly, Magnus couldn't take it anymore, and blurted out that she knew Ariel meant she had stolen the recipes. But what audacity! The woman didn't even deny it, affirming that no one would believe someone without their own shop, and that Ariel would never prove the theft, thanks to the power of Fronta's investor. The girl smiled and indicated to Ariel, without words, to leave. Rosa understood that she had to leave, even if only for an instant. The line was immense. Everyone loved that perfume. The man winked at the lady, implying that they would see each other again, perhaps very soon. Ariel came to the conclusion that, thanks to Magnus, she understood the need to have her own shop. She made a firm decision to find an investor at any cost. The man returned to his quarters, letting out a tired sigh, and began to untie his tie. The advisor rushed to his lord, asking how everything had gone. He also inquired if the man had lunch during the meeting with the businessmen. To this, the lord declared that those talks and meetings were simply unbearable. Then, the advisor gave him news that would please the duke. On Zenon Street, it was rumored that Lady Ariel was looking for an investor. Then, he understood why the girl was present at the party. The advisor told him it was a golden opportunity. He himself praised her perfume. To that, he replied that he didn't see himself as the type of man the lady would desire. At that moment, the boy mentioned that he had heard the young woman had a mishap. If he remembered correctly, the concept of a perfume was stolen from her, but he didn't know more. They only told him about it. Suddenly, with a furious look, he demanded that Rick find out everything about the incident. The maid went to wake up Lady Ariel, but found her in the perfume shop. Such dedication from her lady. Upon entering, the lady saw that the young woman was sleeping with her forehead on the notebook. Apparently, she fell asleep thinking about a new concept. Upon waking, Ariel started drinking tea while the maid cleaned her desk. The sleepy diva thanked Rena, telling her she had brought her back to life. The lady asked worriedly if the young woman was okay, to which she replied yes, besides feeling like her head was going to explode, and her nose was itching. The maid asked how it was possible to spend the whole night with the perfumes, if she had said she needed to finish them in 2 hours. To this, the pink-haired woman communicated that otherwise, they wouldn't see a single investor. To which the maid, worried, replied that she had to take care of her health anyway. She announced she would prepare a bath for the young lady, and afterwards, she must go to sleep, period. No discussion. Although Ariel overdid it, it was worth it, because she developed a new product and outlined a business plan. All that's left is to find an investor, and her business will take off. Ariel deduced from all this that this night in Bella had been an excellent decision. Suddenly, the butler announced that the lady had a visitor and was already waiting for her. What was Ariel's surprise when she discovered that the guest was Cedric? And besides, it was curious that Cedric's advisor was in the same state as Ariel. The girl came downstairs, asking the boy what had brought him there, to which the Duke replied that his matter was urgent, apologizing for not giving notice sooner. The man insinuated that not only her perfumes could be urgent in their relationship, but suddenly, Cedric revealed that he had heard rumors that the lady's perfume recipes had been stolen. The man handed the girl a product made with her stolen perfumes. Ariel was surprised that the rumors spread so quickly. She raised a sad look, asking him if he believed her, since perhaps she had stolen them. To this, he replied that he had tried many scents created by her, and such a cheap item wouldn't fool him. But suddenly, Cedric said he heard the girl was looking for an investor, offering himself as a candidate. Cedric manages many businesses, and if a reliable investor like him invests, her business will be successful. But the girl wondered if he was proposing it out of a guilty conscience. Ariel had a strong and unpleasant feeling of using Cedric. But to invest, the lady has conditions and believes he won't mind them. The investor asked to see everything the lady had prepared, and he will happily choose what he considers necessary for promotion. The girl had prepared a unique perfume that recalled the scent of roses. Ariel took the Duke by the hand, asking him to accompany her to the laboratory, as she could show him everything right now. Rienne had taken care of preparing everything so that the new investor could see what he would invest his money in. To start, the girl presented him with her business plan, on which she had worked for approximately 1 day. Ariel's first goal is a beauty salon. She developed a plan for its opening. She also presents the concept of her new product. Nervousness betrayed her more than she thought. She feared the man wouldn't like her plan, and even worse, her product. But suddenly, Cedric declared that the business plan was excellent and that he was very impressed. The girl shared that in the future, she would like to supply perfumes to the palace, and that it would be great to open a second shop. Ariel apologized for those words, as she had gotten too excited. But suddenly, the Duke declared that he would like to try the new product, asking if it was possible. To this, the lady happily agreed, mentioning that this perfume is called Rose Garden, and that as main components, she used Balur rose and Turkish rose. This underlines the innocent purity of the scent. Thus, the boy can perceive a rose scent different from that of other mass-market perfumes. She sprayed the perfume on the man's wrist, to which the advisor said this scent was like being in a garden in the morning, where the most beautiful roses gathered, absorbing dewdrops. The aroma is the incarnation of a noble rose bush, thanks to the dreamy scent. The imagination made the man see the Duke covered in rose petals. The Duke himself concluded that such a scent cannot be found anywhere else. The way she felt being praised by Cedric and not by her servants was different. He approved the plan and the product. He said it was so detailed that it was hard to believe it belonged to a novice. Ariel proved to be a genius at creating perfumes. And finally, the man announced his decision to invest in the business. With the promise that Ariel would not disappoint him, they left, looking forward to future meetings. The advisor confirmed that the trip to the Winston mansion had been worthwhile, and indeed it was. He got an incredible project and will apparently soon see a reconciled couple. Surprisingly, he already had his suspicions about the culprit. He warned that this could bring trouble to Lady Winston, so they should keep a close eye on him. Cedric was flattered by the idea of being Lady Winston's partner and that their problems would now be shared. The maid filled her with praise and congratulations. They would soon open their own shop. To this, Ariel stated that Sir Ern had also worked very hard. Despite Cedric's help, the work was immense, and the girl decided to personally handle the shop's affairs. The girl didn't want to rest. She felt uncomfortable wasting time in vain. Ariel was thinking about when Cedric would contact her, when suddenly the knight and the maid burst into her quarters, informing her that the Duke had sent the necessary information. Or rather, the fact that the shop's construction was finished. The youngsters went to see the shop, or rather Ariel's perfume shop. The lady was surprised to receive the news, as the Duke had said it would take at least several months. In reality, the man demanded that the construction be finished as soon as possible. Upon entering, the girl was very excited, but once inside, she stood dumbfounded in amazement. Ariel couldn't believe that was truly her shop, to which Cedric reported that the second floor was arranged so they could live there. The shop had a lounge, a kitchen, and of course a laboratory, which was quite surprising. Ariel had dreamed her whole life of having her own shop, and almost cried realizing she had actually fulfilled that yearning. That goal she had for 2 lifetimes. But the surprises didn't end there. The shop had its own garden, where Ariel could grow the necessary plants to create her perfumes. While the young woman admired the flowers, the maid announced she wanted to try the kitchen, asking if they wanted to have tea. But suddenly, the knight apologized, saying it wasn't the right time for tea, because the guests outside the door were already waiting. The girl was in shock. They hadn't done almost any advertising, and there was already a crowd. How was that possible? Meanwhile, an envious woman watched the inauguration with resentment, realizing she hadn't managed to break Ariel's spirit, nor her desire to grow as a perfumer. The girl burst into the room of a sleeping Killian, calling him an idiot just like that. He came to the conclusion that the man only knew how to give good speeches, but in practice, he was useless. Nor did he help at all. Magnus shouted that he had no right to sleep in that situation. All the customers had left with Ariel. To this, the Pale One replied that it was nonsense and not worth getting so angry about something like that. Magnus shouted that even before the official opening, people were already lining up at Ariel's salon. And not only that, Cedric became her investor, so not even an ant would approach his shop. The blonde informed him that he had already surveyed the area. The girl declared that he should have taken the investors from the lady from the beginning. Instead of talking about trifles, he promised to take care of Ariel. He said that Fanta was not entirely wrong, because to take on a person in despair, first you must let them taste victory and then snatch it away. The man informed the girl that she had to follow him, because he had a way to execute a good plan. Finally, the workday ended, and Ariel saw off the last customer. The day had been a success, and the shop was officially open. A week had already passed since its official opening, and during working hours, the girl attended to the customers. While in the evening, she worked on perfumes and managed the business. The lady felt that business was not as simple as it seemed, but the most rewarding thing for the girl was seeing how her money accumulated. The lady concluded that even Cedric would be very happy with such profits. But to start, she announced she was going to buy ingredients. As she walked through the city, Ariel murmured that they would need lilac, roses, and cedar. She meant they would buy quickly and return immediately. When she saw how the people in the city were looking at her, those people disappeared instantly, and Ariel understood that people were avoiding her. Suddenly, Raphael ran toward the lady, asking if she had noticed the strange behavior of the people. The boy recounted that, at the opening of her salon, 2 suspicious people in cloaks appeared on the flower street, and they offered to promise not to sell ingredients to Ariel's perfume shop. In exchange for that, they would receive 20 million vices every day. Ariel instantly understood that this was the work of Magnus and Killian. It was logical, since without ingredients, there would be no perfume and buyers would go to Magnus's shop. The girl supposed they would place obstacles, but she didn't think they would be so unsubtle. The boy reported that he personally refused, since he is on the lady's side. But suddenly, Ariel declared that she was not going to tolerate this passively and would take the necessary measures. Sitting at the table, the girl explained that she had thought all night and had 2 options: pay a fortune to steal merchants or grow the ingredients in her garden. But the second was impossible due to her lack of resources. Suddenly, the maid asked if it wasn't time for them to intervene. Although it seems like a small thing, royal blood runs through her veins, and they could imprison her for insulting royalty. The girl stood dumbfounded when she saw Cedric standing in front of her. To this, the knight revealed that he had contacted him, as he felt the lady was in a rather delicate situation, and he thought that His Highness could be of great help. Ariel understood that the boy was right, because if Cedric intervened, there would be no more need to worry about the matter. He is the girl's investor, reason enough to ask for his participation. But suddenly, the pale young woman declared that she wanted to solve the problem on her own, and in no other way. And like a little girl, Ariel begged the Duke to at least give her a hint on what to do. Then he asked if the young woman knew Guybert, since she is the head of a large trade guild. Furthermore, she is responsible for the circulation of various products. Her guild has connections with many family clans and plays a crucial role in the economy of the Bel Air Empire. And China always looks for business opportunities. The man had heard that they had recently established themselves on the border of Bel Air. Cedric proposed to the lady to close a deal with this woman. They arrived at the place and apparently found the trade guild. They left the capital, and it seemed like they had entered another country. A blue-haired man greeted the young women, extending his hand and asking, upon dismounting, what their business was there. Ariel introduced herself, declaring she had come to meet Mrs. Jaina, whereupon he was surprised by the visitors, and demanded that they follow him. Ariel suddenly understood that Cedric was right, and that everything she was looking for was there. In all fresh, the lady came to the conclusion that, at all costs, she had to close that deal. Jaina asked where her guests came from. The girl revealed she was from the Winston family, to which the other replied that she wouldn't chat much, and she would say right away that she wouldn't make deals. She apologized, admitting she should have studied the guild's etiquette before visiting her. The blonde burst out laughing when she saw that Lady Ariel had really done that. She promised to instruct the lady on the guild's etiquette, as it was not complicated. Charlotte explained that what is crucial for the guild is merchandise, and Mrs. Jaina only speaks to those who offer her something she likes. She brought a golden vase with jewels. Ariel intuited that she liked expensive things, and if so, she would gift her a perfume. But she knew absolutely nothing about her. The young woman asked if there was any information on what would be best to give her as a gift. To this, Charlotte declared she had heard that lately they were terrified of the escron. The escron are very ill-tempered birds and love to hunt, so they frequent the forest, causing problems for travelers. These birds have a highly developed sense of smell, and at the slightest attempt to catch them, they detect the human scent and flee. Carlota suggested going personally and proving her worth at the wild bird house. But suddenly, she changed her mind, saying she wouldn't have time, although she offered a close friend. Ariel choked on her tea upon learning that this friend was none other than Cedric. But suddenly, the blonde asked why she was so surprised. Did she perhaps not like Cedric? Although the problem wasn't whether she liked him or not, but rather that, according to the original plot, he was so terrifying that no one dared to utter his name. However, upon meeting him in person, she understood how much he differed from the novel. Despite the first impression, he turned out to be exceptionally attentive and courteous. Therefore, her feelings for Cedric began to manifest, which was quite terrifying. Ariel quickly explained that she and Cedric were bound by an investor relationship and owner, and that she could hardly contact him for personal reasons. The lady felt she had strayed far from the initial goal, when recently she wanted to end their relationship once and for all. The girl pondered what the heck she would do when the main protagonist appeared. The lady really thought that, despite approaching the Duke, he was so busy that he would hesitate to help her. But she was mistaken. Cedric stated plainly that helping the girl was his duty as an investor, so nothing could be more important. Ariel thought that Cedric was also human, that he must need a change of scenery, and that motivated his desire to help. The man offered to help the lady ride a horse, seating her in front of him, holding her carefully by the hands. The Duke reflected, trying to convince himself, repeating that only business connected him to Ariel, and his objective was a mere agreement. However, he didn't understand why she attracted him so much. Why did he wish to spend more and more time by her side? Cedric was happy to have the opportunity to show her the home area under the control of the duchy. He proposed getting her off the horse and taking a look, since the Scarron appeared in the surroundings where they were located. Walking through the thicket of the forest, the man suddenly asked the lady to stop, for he heard strange sounds that could foreshadow attacks. The man warned that they should be cautious. Scarron loves shiny things, while the bird glared at the girls. Suddenly, the gigantic bird with a wild scream lunged at Cedric, seeking to attack him and steal from him. Reacting instantly, The man took the full blow and ordered the lady to hide behind him. Determined to capture the creature, he fired a special weapon, enveloping the bird in a net. But suddenly, it began to emit pitiful sounds and cry, trying to cover its face with its wings. It seemed the bird had a broken leg, and when the girl tried to approach, Cedric prevented her, asking her not to fall for its tricks. But suddenly, an expression of satisfaction appeared on the face of that crying bird, and after freeing itself, it took flight with a loud cry. That bird clung to the servants' heads, tearing out their hair in clumps. Cedric looked at the lady, asking if she was okay, but she seemed unharmed, although visibly shocked by what happened. The hunters concluded that the rumors were true. That bird had a truly detestable nature and character. The maiden suggested hiding, but it's pointless. The flying ones will find them by scent. The feathers of that horrible beast stank and smelled like urine, making everyone grimace. But Ariel thought the smell was very good, because if memory doesn't betray her, the origin was musk. If you dry it enough and mix it with alcohol, it will be an excellent base note, giving everyone softness and nobility. The girl understood that, thanks to this, she would make an excellent gift for Jaina. The servants, and not only them, did not understand how good perfumes could be made from those stinking feathers. But trusting that the lady had a plan, they collected them anyway. The girl herself understood that asking to collect that stench sounded very strange, but the man affirmed that he had reasons to need that ingredient. Upon arriving at her perfumery, the lady finally finished the necessary perfume. She called it Escron Musk Scent. Ariel, happy to have finished, proposed that the maiden try it on herself. But Rena was very scared, and even a little disgusted, that these spirits were made from those feathers, and its smell reminded Rena. The young woman decided she must trust her lady, and upon opening the bottle, she felt a gentle aroma. And sweet. At the same time, that scent enveloped her with warmth and pleasant emotions. Captivated by that exquisite perfume, Rena mistakenly hugged the knight, believing him to be her lady. The effect of the musk turned out to be much stronger than Ariel expected. She decided she would have to adjust the dosage to avoid something like that. The maiden was amazed, stating that it took enormous talent to change the smell of urine so completely oppositely. This time, the perfume turned out to be special. She announced them as spirits that would subdue the Escron. Jaina argued that she hoped it wasn't a waste of time, to which Ariel asked her to trust her, since she would undoubtedly be satisfied. Ariel mixed special ingredients that maximally recalled the smell of the deep forest where the Escron live. The perfumer applied the liquid to the woman's wrist so she could test its essence. Jaina described it as the very essence of nature, as the sharp odor dissipates, and a heavy and wild aroma remains. Ariel declared that this wild aroma would help the merchants, and wanted the lady to verify it for herself. Asserting that the lady was too trusting, she proposed setting off on the journey immediately. Even Rena noticed something strange in the forest. They literally saw Escrons lurking from the bushes, staring at them greedily. The creatures quickly surrounded them, and the terrified maiden asked if this was normal. Ariel explained that the forest hunter was the intense scent of the Lord of the Forest. Because of that smell, the Escrons would take her for a rival. It looked like a welcoming ceremony for a new friend, to which Jaina announced she would try to trust these spirits. But suddenly, judging by its size, the leader of these birds rose into the air. The lady extended her hand towards the Escron, trying to check if it would be submissive. But sniffing her, the enormous flying beast began to attack and scream, adopting a fighting stance, and spreading its wings. The young woman panicked, as it seemed her spirits, brilliant at first, had not worked. The woman declared she had no choice and pulled out a small dagger. But suddenly, this creature collapsed, asking for cuddles on its belly and scratches on its feathers. Jenna began to stroke and scratch its belly, receiving tender coos in return. Everyone began to think the girl had been mistaken, but it turns out she really was the genius perfumer everyone talked about. It wasn't just rumors, it was the truth. Ariel feared a side effect due to the strong musk smell, but fortunately everything turned out fine. And musk also stimulates excitement. Scaron quickly accepted Jenna as its owner. Not as an enemy, not even as a friend. The woman, approaching Ariel, declared she didn't know her headache would become so docile. And now it was no longer necessary to hunt Scarons. Jenna revealed she loved the scent, as it was truly captivating, and expressed her great hope to collaborate together. She decided she must send a gift back for the perfumes, and sent Ariel lots of ingredients, even fresh bases and many new and unique products. In one of the boxes, the young woman noticed a magical enhancing elixir. This elixir was noted in Ariel's notebook and stated that it enhanced the perfume's effect. With it, the lady suddenly finalized several products. But oh no! Upon testing her perfume on Rena once more, she noticed something strange. The bottles were identical. Impossible to know which was which. Ariel understood the disaster. Those who smelled the aroma accosted each other, overcome by excitement. The perfumer didn't know what to do. Chaos erupted around her. Suddenly, the Duke burst into the mansion, asking what was happening. Just as the maiden was testing another, all the bottles fell and shattered onto Cedric's trousers, drenching him with the cloying aroma. The girl knew that if Cedric suffered the side effect, he simply wouldn't stand for it. Ariel was about to ask her investor if he was all right when suddenly, Rena kissed her mistress's hands, swearing to serve her forever. And the knight, beside himself, shouted that Mrs. Winston could order him to do anything. He would do it perfectly right now. The Duke exclaimed that Ariel had surprised him by adding a boosting elixir. Faced with this, the girl declared that she wanted to experiment by diversifying the perfume. It was truly surprising that the perfume didn't affect the man at all. He said that nothing affected him, except for Anyxia perfumes. The Duke said he came to inquire about the deal with the trade guild and ended up witnessing such an amusing spectacle. But suddenly, he affirmed that true magic perfumes would have business value. Since their advantage is obvious, the girl suggested changing the atmosphere and discussing those details. Everyone started promoting their perfumes as magical, claiming they could even cure illnesses and wounds. The buyers asked how much those magic perfumes cost, as they were eager to know their effect, that they wouldn't even blink until trying them. But suddenly, Ariel smiled and apologized, announcing that those perfumes were not for sale. Everyone rioted, as their ladies would literally kill them if they returned without the perfumes. And Ariel could not explain why she wasn't selling them. Suddenly, 3 girls burst into the perfumery, asking if she was Lady Winston. The perfumer asked the girls to leave, because the magic perfumes are not for sale. But they suddenly shouted, saying they hadn't come to buy, but to place an order. They began to explain that one of them suffered from very severe insomnia, and nothing they tried worked. When asked how it happened, the girls replied that the academy boys were harassing Sasha a lot, and that turned into a trauma that prevented her from sleeping. The poor girl suddenly fainted due to lack of sleep, but the girls managed to catch her, swearing they would help her. The girls, literally with tears in their eyes, begged the great perfumer to help them. After thinking for a few seconds, Ariel decided it would be hard to refuse and agreed, although with one condition. The young woman smiled cunningly and declared that, for Sasha, they must make sacrifices. The girls said no sacrifice scared them, since the girl with insomnia was their only friend. In reality, the girls only had to test the perfume together. It is a new product. This fragrance evokes warm and comforting memories. The expert modified the recipe from Ariel's aroma diary, using cocoa and tonka. Sweet and warm, Ariel added freshness and depth with yuzu and grapefruit oils. Warm memories are just what Sasha needs right now. Ariel sprayed a mousse cake-scented perfume on her wrist, the one they ate yesterday. Sasha realized that she remembered when they ate desserts together. The girl affirmed that this perfume gives security with its warm, sweet, and cozy scent. After those words, the children began to fall asleep. The soul felt warmer and more comfortable. This perfume awakens memory, and thanks to that, the soul calms down. In reality, the original perfumes plunge people into eternal sleep. But Ariel modified the recipe slightly. But suddenly, the perfumer feared that the side effect would be precisely that eternal sleep. Upon waking, Sasha said that for the first time in a long time, she had slept very peacefully. The girl asked how much those perfumes cost, since thanks to their effect, she would like to buy them. But the girl only smiled gently and said it would be a gift, since the little lady could take them if she liked them. But suddenly, Sasha decided to become Ariel's henchwoman, informing her directly. In the end, all the girls, following Sasha's example, wanted to participate in this. But then, the girl remembered that these girls had caused a lot of harm as henchwomen of the original version of Ariel. But the children begged her not to reject their mistress, as they would do whatever she ordered. Rena and the knight were going to buy the necessary ingredients for the perfumes. When the maiden saw a rat, after hitting the poor animal, she hurried to her destination. The hooded man, after watching them, headed towards the pale one. Lord Kion was sitting on the porch, drinking tea and reading something. The man reported that the rumors that Ariel made magic perfumes were true. Furthermore, he mentioned that Winston's influence is growing rapidly. Then the Lord said that, although he didn't want to, he would have to take the lady's magic perfumes away from her. He gave the boy another task, specifically, to sneak into the shop and steal the recipe book. Ariel mentioned that Lady Jaina could help with the deal in the west of the country. But for now, they are just plans, although she will try very hard. Also, the girl mentioned that they are preparing a party to celebrate her opening. Cedric was greatly surprised, to which the lady proposed he participate. Upon learning that Ariel would be there, the Duke accepted. He said he hadn't congratulated her properly on the opening. Cedric declared that he would wait for the lady to contact him. The lady thanked Rena for setting the table. It looked absolutely beautiful. Suddenly, a blonde approached the girl, congratulating Ariel on her opening. Everyone arriving at her event gave her flowers, congratulating her on the opening of her perfumery. To this, Ariel proclaimed that she was very grateful that everyone had attended. Even the investor himself arrived with a bouquet of roses, stating that the shop was truly beautiful. After giving the flowers to Ariel, Cedric hurried to remove a petal from her pink hair. To some girls, the young woman even gave small perfumes, assuring them that they would help them find true love. They assured that they would use them on their most important days. A boy approached the Duke, telling him it was an honor to meet him, but Cedric completely ignored him without even looking at him. Noticing who the man was looking at, he quickly asked what connected him to that lady. To this, he replied quietly that he was her investor. Then Raphael introduced himself, saying he owned a flower shop. To this, he sighed languidly and wished her prosperity. But suddenly, Ariel herself approached the boys, asking what they were so busy with. She informed them that Luna and the children had prepared a simple game and proposed they participate. To this, Cedric replied that he thought it was time to leave. The Duke was already very late, so, saying he had a good time, he left the party. The blonde suddenly commented that she was very surprised that His Highness, always busy, still managed to come to the event. The girl retorted that he was the investor and had to come, but the other insisted that an investor wouldn't look at her like that. She was surprised that Ariel truly didn't realize anything. The girl said his gaze was so intense that she feared he would burn a hole in her dress. One of the girls also said she thought Cedric liked her. Lunar intuition is never wrong. To this, Ariel tried to explain that the Duke felt nothing for her, nor she for him. The girl knew perfectly well that Cedric already had a main heroine. It was impossible for him to love her. A man watched the celebration from the corner, muttering that he had finally found Ariel Winston. Strangely enough, it was enough for Cedric to think of the lady to feel a little happier. The counselor immediately warned the Duke that the fifth prince had sent a spy to Lady Winston's shop. He immediately turned around, but the boy tried to stop him, as he hadn't been feeling well lately. He suggested sending another knight, to which the man replied that he alone was more than enough. The spy concluded, sneaking into the perfumery, that he only needed to steal the formulas and earn a good sum. He started looking for the diary in the drawers, when suddenly Cedric appeared threateningly over him. With agile movements, he knocked him down to his knees, slamming his head against the floor. After ensuring the lady was safe, he ordered that the spy be packed up and returned home. He was astonished. Had the Duke perhaps overestimated his own strength? But in an instant, that guy's ally appeared in front of him, sword in hand. Drawing his dagger, the investor lunged into the attack, but the rival successfully blocked his blow with his weapon. Deflecting the thick blade, the knight managed to push him aside and tear Cedric's clothes, who asked who had sent him. But that guy, after threatening to turn the Duke into a monster again, threw a bottle spraying a peculiar aroma. The man covered his nose, realizing it was a demonic essence. After insulting him by calling him a monster, he moved a little further away. What audacity! The Anyxia aroma was a temporary remedy that transformed Cedric into a normal human. The stranger, assuring him he would soon know everything, said goodbye. The man fell to the ground, losing consciousness upon realizing he couldn't control himself. Ariel woke up in her warm and cozy little bed. She touched the petals of the roses they gave her yesterday, noticing they were still fresh. But suddenly, upon hearing strange noises, she ran into Rena, who was like a volcano, furious. She claimed it was dangerous and that Ariel should not approach the Duke, who was lying on the floor. But the lady, approaching him, started asking him if everything was okay. She wanted to know what he was doing there, to which he just fell asleep on her shoulder. The man commented that the lady's aroma truly brought tranquility. A couple of hours later, the Duke apologized for the trouble caused. The girl suddenly asked who Cedric had fought with, as he looked disheveled. To this, he, in order to evade the answer, declared that it was already time to leave. The next customer was a young woman with pale hair, dressed in pink. She asked if Duke Evans hadn't just left that shop. Suddenly, the buyer requested that they create a perfume that could make someone fall in love. Originally, Ariel tried to create such a perfume, but none of her attempts were successful. The lady asked if there was any reason for the young woman to be sure she could create such a perfume. To this, the stranger replied that she had heard the whispers between Lady Luna and Lady Aileen. Ariel hurried to explain that those words were just nonsense, stories for children. Then, she declared that she knew Ariel and Cedric had grown closer than in the past. The blonde extended a box to the young woman, asking her to take a look. Inside was a very rare plant from Mount Daphne. Legend says that the goddess Juvenal fell in love at first sight with a shepherd, and when he reciprocated her feelings, they planted this plant and used it for scented candles. Ariel did not know the legend, but she perfectly knew the effect of the aroma. It has such an enchanting aroma that a legend even arose that it captivates people. The lady had tried to obtain it with such difficulty, but had failed. Then, the customer asked who liked Ariel so much as to go to such lengths. She affirmed that Ariel would be surprised to see the person she wanted to make fall in love. That person was the Baron's son, Kenan Arson. The girl instantly deduced that he was quite a heartthrob. Ariel communicated to her that she understood Lady Cleo. Then, the blonde said they had been friends for 10 years, but she wanted to confess her feelings to him, since she had heard that the effect lasted a maximum of 1 week, but she didn't care if she could win his heart. Suddenly, she wondered if love obtained by the force of magic made any sense. Ariel accepted the girl's conditions, but the perfumer also warned that it was the first time she had seen this plant, so there was a high probability of failure. Magnus shouted at his ally, as all their plans had crashed again. They even bribed the florists, but Ariel made a deal with the head of a large trade guild. To this, the man just snorted, saying they wouldn't have to go to such extremes if the lady knew how to make perfume. But suddenly, smiling, the blonde declared that Font had nothing to worry about, since he had a brilliant plan. He explained that the feast of St. Catherine was approaching. Cayenne confidently stated that, on this feast day, he would definitely be able to get Ariel. Ariel got to work, creating that very special love perfume. And she succeeded quite well, as a feeling capable of awakening and stirring the heart emerged. Rena suggested the lady try some cake, while she inhaled the aroma. But suddenly, upon placing the perfume on the table, she smelled a delicious scent. The young woman asked her what she thought of the aroma, to which she replied by asking where it came from. She proclaimed it a masterpiece. Ariel would become instantly rich. To this, Ariel retorted that those ingredients were too rare, impossible to buy. Consequently, it would not be possible to create much similar perfume. What a tragedy! But suddenly, the maiden exclaimed that the lady looked extraordinarily beautiful that day. The long-awaited evening gala ball began. It was organized in honor of St. Catherine, the patron saint of all lovers. But Ariel suddenly felt that she shouldn't have come. What a mistake! She felt uncomfortable, especially when Charlotte noticed her and called her over. Ariel thanked the lady for the invitation, to which she replied that she would always welcome her gladly. Charlotte also noticed that Ariel looked excessively beautiful today. How envious! And truly, she looked rested and charming, as if she had slept well and regained strength. Despite having worked hard, the blonde asked if the lady had a new perfume, to which she replied that, apparently, that scent had impregnated her skin while she mixed the components. The aristocrat noticed that it was a very wonderful and warm aroma. Ariel seemed to bewitch people, who kept telling her nice things. One girl even asked if that perfume was sold, to which Ariel replied that it was not for sale. And another even noticed that the effect of that aroma was that the heart began to beat faster. But suddenly, to avoid embarrassment, the young woman made the decision to leave the ball. She concluded that today's reaction towards her was different from the previous one. Suddenly, she ran into that customer, asking about the aroma she needed. To this, Ariel took a bottle with the perfume out of the box. This enchanting aroma came in a heart-shaped package, with a black ribbon at the end. After examining them, the lady affirmed that they were extremely adorable. This aroma is like fresh flowers, and also sweet like honey itself. She immediately knew that the aroma truly enchanted and enveloped with love. But watch out, for the effect to manifest, the other person must have felt interest for some time. Given this, Cleo declared that such a possibility existed, of course. The lady wished her luck and left, to which she shouted that she would never forget that help. Gathering courage, Cleo decided to approach, spraying herself with the elixir. But suddenly, her partner found her himself, approaching from behind. He confessed to her that he had been looking for the girl everywhere. At the ball, the couple held on tight in the waltz, and it seems the plan worked perfectly. Ariel, standing to the side, was happy as if it were for herself. Despite the great fatigue, the young woman gained valuable experience. But suddenly, a harsh and imposing voice was heard. Cedric approached the lady, after searching for her all night. He affirmed that Ariel's aroma had changed drastically. The man revealed that this perfume was unknown to him, and that if it weren't for Charlotte, he would have thought Ariel had already left. Given this, the lady was surprised that he verified her presence by the aroma. She immediately compared him to a dog. Realizing she had a canine sense of smell, Cedric asked if the lady had experienced any change in her emotional state. They say that if someone changes perfume, something has changed inside them. Given this, the lady revealed that she was only developing a new fragrance by commission. The Duke explained that he was there at Charlotte's request. Or rather, it was a deal. His presence added an extra effect, an ace up the sleeve. Of course, the Duke's participation will elevate the evening ball to another level. Cedric extended his hand, inviting the lady to dance. Ariel replied that she had barely slept. She answered him that that wasn't what was important. The crucial thing was to know if the man's symptoms had intensified. Lately, he had started drinking more, and given his strange condition, Cedric's madness intensifies just like in the original story. These thoughts made the young woman feel pity for him. Suddenly, the man asked why Ariel was looking at him that way. Ariel replied that she thought she should treat His Highness better. Since Cedric is the protagonist, Ariel will try her best. For others, perfume is a personal taste, but for the Duke, it is a vital necessity. Cedric smiled and said it seemed Ariel was showing interest in him. Once again, he tried to invite the lady to dance, taking her hand. Ariel agreed to dance just one piece. The perfumer noticed that the man was in an unusually good mood today. The Duke announced that this was a very special day for him. Cedric smiled when Ariel noticed his strange gaze. She thought that perhaps this behavior was due to the perfume, but refuting that fact was easy. It couldn't affect a man. Ariel didn't know how to dance at all. She stepped on all the Duke's toes. The man told her she shouldn't worry about that. He told her she simply had to focus on him. They danced again, exchanging looks full of love. But suddenly, Ariel pushed him away, saying it was too hot. She didn't understand why her heart was beating so fast. The counselor approached the Duke, informing him that the Baron was waiting for him. Cedric turned to the young woman and snapped that it was time to go. A little more, and the atmosphere would become weird, so Ariel left too. She tried to understand the reason for the Duke's sudden behavior. But suddenly, the prince himself appeared at the ball, and everyone was talking about it. Although, strangely, His Highness's gaze never left the perfumer. Ariel curtsied as a greeting, saying she didn't expect to see him there. To which he replied, amazed by her talent, that he had tied up his ex for business reasons. She just let out a giggle, commenting that it seemed His Highness was afraid of her. He said that not only did they copy her perfume, but they also bribed the florists. Everyone in the room, upon hearing this, started whispering and commenting. Then, the prince demanded proof that he did it, as Ariel was clearly delirious. The girl became defiant, saying that if he wanted to compete, he should do it well. The perfumer looked away, asking permission to leave, as the prince had nothing more to say. But suddenly, Magnus and he proposed to measure strength, precisely against the main perfumer of the shop. Ariel didn't want to exert herself that much for them, but they were provoking her. The couple set the condition that if they lost, they would close the perfumery. But in case of victory, Ariel would have to become their perfumer. Ariel asked what kind of competition they would choose, to which Fonta replied that, obviously, the creation of a perfume. But with one condition, the ladies had to create a perfume that their investor would like. Ariel strove to analyze the commission, aware that her investor was not present, and it would be difficult, but suddenly, as if emerging from the crowd, he appeared, looking at her with absolute confidence in their victory. Everyone crowded around the participants, some not even understanding what the hell was going on. Everyone knew that Winston had a small, but very, very well-known shop. They prepared the same amount of ingredients. The side with the most votes would win. Ariel paused to think, what aroma would perfectly suit Cedric? From what they said, he seemed like a dreadful tyrant. But she, deep down, believes he is a good person, and sometimes, she simply has no idea what goes through his head. The girl made a firm decision. She had to win this competition. A girl started to worry. Ariel's rivals arrived ready for anything, and she was at a clear disadvantage. But the Duke replied confidently that he blindly believes in Lady Winston's abilities. But suddenly, Ariel noticed a label on Fanta's perfumes, realizing they were prepared conscientiously. She looked at her own perfume, wondering if they could have added something to it. Suspicious, because, considering all their childish actions, she was not going to let them off this time. The young woman reached a conclusion. This is the perfect moment to teach them a lesson. With her hand raised, Ariel announced that her creation was finished. When they let her go first to review her perfume, she approached her investor. She handed him the perfume, asking him to spray it in the air. This perfume is called Duke in the Lunar Night. Ariel used black orchid to create a heavy and intoxicating aroma. Over time, a subtle, warm, and sweet aroma from the base notes will remain on the skin. This perfume will give her a completely new charm. Everyone inhaled her perfume, realizing the aroma was somber, yet warm at the same time. Noble and charming, just like the Duke. Ariel also reported that anyone can use this aroma, regardless of their gender. Suddenly, Fanta said that hot days are coming soon, and that wearing such a perfume might be suffocating. And especially for the arrival of summer, she has prepared a stimulating grapefruit aroma. It is called Prince of the Imperial Palace, because everyone can sense the natural freshness of lemon, as well as the sweetness of the grapefruit. Everyone concluded that the aroma is very fresh and natural, so refreshing that one starts to feel invigorated. One even said it is perfect for summer because it is citrusy. Given this, Fanta smiled and shouted that Ariel had recently said it was cheap and banal. Furthermore, she started promoting her shop, announcing that they could acquire those perfumes at an incredible price. The Duke of the Lunar Night is more elegant and impactful, but the grapefruit aroma is ideal for everyday use. People started comparing the aromas, trying to decide which was the best. Then, the man proposed splitting into two factions to see how many votes each perfume received. He approached the people and asked them to do so, to join Ariel's faction, or Fant's. But suddenly, the blonde started sneezing, interrupting his speech. It turns out he forgot to mention that he was allergic to grapefruit. Fant shouted. His investor was telling him that right now. The man felt like he was going to vomit. Fant's investor ran to the bathroom, seized by the horrible sensations of the allergy. People commented that the lady didn't even know about the boy's allergy. Some even changed their minds about the girl's perfume, and Fanta swore never to trust her investor again. The girl turned and shouted at him that she would get revenge, that they would see who was the best perfumer. At that moment, Ariel didn't even imagine she would win this competition in such a silly way. But these thoughts were interrupted by potential customers, asking when the perfumes would go on sale. Ariel announced that the soonest they could acquire the perfume would be next week, and that she would give those present a sample. Cedric, approaching the perfumer, thanked her for creating a perfume especially for him. But suddenly, the Duke started thinking about how Lady Winston would see him as a person. The investor congratulated the lady on her victory and smiled kindly, trying to encourage Ariel. A week later, the girl was still selling her products, studying and developing nonstop. Rena commented that, since the girl went to the ball, they had noticed an increase in men among the buyers. To which Ariel replied that, in the future, it would be better to create more neutral aromas, and that the bottle design also mattered. The guys saw that their rivals really kept their promise and closed their shop. The maid gave her a newspaper where it said that, at St. Catherine's Ball, the magical perfumer created the aroma of Duke Cedric, her ex, in an impromptu contest. Furthermore, it was revealed that the fifth prince was allergic to grapefruit thanks to this contest. Ariel said that they bothered her, but curiously, along with relief, she felt sadness. But suddenly, reading the newspaper was interrupted by people who recognized her for making magic perfumes. They started shouting that Mrs. Winston must visit their shop at today's festival. The girls were bombarded with flyers and newspapers with invitations, and she didn't even understand what had just happened. The streets are crowded today because it is the big day. Rena reported that today is the summer solstice festival. Ariel paused to think, trying to recall how this party was celebrated in the original plot. Originally, to celebrate the start of summer, a huge festival was held in the streets. But at the same time, that day would become the beginning of the protagonist's tyranny. Ariel calmed down thinking that there were 3 years until that happened. Rena asked if Ariel was interested in going, and the perfumer realized that Rena was at that age when festivals are appealing. So she asked the maid to go. Ariel announced that there probably wouldn't be many people today, so she would handle it herself. But the maid insisted that Ariel go with them because the famous Tarot Cafe was there. Rena almost burst into tears, realizing she would have to spend time without her mistress. The festival was beautiful, full of children and parents trying to make them happy. The maid also decided to act like a child and begged them to buy her a balloon. They went to that cafe, where the famous fortune teller Rena herself was sitting, but suddenly, they were abruptly informed that they were already closed. Given this, Ariel tried to suggest that perhaps she could pay extra. In an instant, the fortune teller recognized Lady Winston, saying she loved the perfume she bought her, and as an exception, she would attend to them for free. Rena went first, asking to know her fortune in love, and the girl did a reading. She informed her that her love was much closer than she thought. She showed the lover's card, and also the card of a traveler, ready for adventure. Ariel quickly concluded that the maid was behaving as expected at her age. The young woman turned to her mistress, offering to read her future. The girl started convincing the lady that her predictions were very accurate, since everything that happened in her childhood even coincided. She topped off the perfumer by saying that the fortune teller said she wouldn't accept money and that it was her sincere wish. But suddenly, the death card appears. The fortune teller begs her to draw another. The 3 cards, hell and a painful death. Ariel smiles nervously. All the cards point to death. They don't know each other yet, but their destiny is already sealed with death. The fortune teller says it is not encouraging, but she cannot assure that he is dead. If her love is alive, he clings to life by tooth and nail. Ariel asks the lady to predict her fortune for today. Today, in a crowded place, she must go where red abounds. There she will find a nobleman, and furthermore, it could be her predicted destiny. That man has an imposing presence, and they will meet by chance. The gentleman also wanted to reassure the lady, saying that medicine is advancing, and her future beloved will recover soon. Rena even claimed that Winston already has too many worries and doesn't need to meet someone like that to complicate her life. At the festival, the girls ran into Raphael. He approached Lady Ariel and greeted her. But suddenly, he noticed she was wearing red in such a crowded place. She asked him, intrigued, if he wasn't sick with something. The girl concluded that he was too young and healthy to be her beloved. The boy suddenly declared that she had been magnificent at the last ball, and that he loved her perfume. The girl modestly replied that Raphael was exaggerating, to which the young man asked, boldly, if the lady planned to stay, and if he could take care of her security. Ariel replied that she already had a bodyguard, but the girl suggested that he accompany her, not as protection. Raphael exclaimed that he would give them an incredible tour. He knows every corner of this street. The young people wanted to play, or rather, throw darts at balloons to win a prize. Ariel was excellent at this game. She had amazing accuracy. When it was the gentleman's turn, Ariel warned him that he wouldn't beat her record. He took the darts with each finger and adopted a fighting stance. He won in an instant, popping absolutely all the balloons. The gentleman said he just practiced a lot, that no one had taught him. Ariel started praising Erna, which provoked Raphael's fury and jealousy. Raphael tried to divert attention, saying that around the corner they sold delicious chicken and cheese skewers, and even suggested taking a look. Rena also loved chicken skewers, so Ariel thought it was fortunate. But suddenly, the girl realized that Rena was not by her side. The little one was in the woods, trying to reach her balloon, which had gotten tangled in a tree. But suddenly, someone offered her the string, which horrified her. In front of her stood a man in a hood, with horrible red dark circles and an empty gaze. Meanwhile, the others decided to split up to look for her, as she couldn't have gone very far. Ariel thanked everyone and asked them to meet at this very spot in an hour. The girls started shouting Rena's name and searching for her throughout the festival. But suddenly, her gaze fell on a blonde man who was eating noodles. She wanted to ask why he was dressed so ridiculously, but he covered her mouth with his hand. He dragged her into a corner, holding her tightly. But Ariel was no fool, so she bit the prince on the hand. He shouted that his highness should be in the castle, and then explained that, because of her, his mother forbade him from leaving the palace, and that he was there in secret. In any case, he begged her to pretend she hadn't seen him there. The girl declared it was a waste of time and that she had to leave, but he wouldn't let go of her. The young woman turned to him and asked what else he wanted, but the prince, instead, asked her if she had come to the party alone. The man said he wasn't used to the commoner village and needed a guide, to which Ariel replied that she had plenty of money and could hire whomever she wanted. The prince took the lady's hand, saying that wasn't the problem. The man confessed that he had no one to have a good time with. Fonta declared that she didn't need such an investor and broke the contract. In the newspapers, everyone makes fun of him and he is completely alone. Ariel said she was looking for someone and if he helped, they could have fun together. The girl described Rena in great detail, to which he asked if she was referring to the maid. The prince proclaimed that her prodigious memory was worth mentioning, and that he had seen her heading to the woods not long ago. The lady found a bracelet on the ground that belonged to Rena. She started thinking that something serious might have happened, to which the man replied that there was a magic tower nearby, and no one would dare cause trouble. But suddenly, Ariel smelled a familiar aroma. It was the perfume Rena usually wore. The girl started running to find her maid, but suddenly tripped. The prince caught her, holding her right at the waist. Ariel looked at him in confusion, completely embarrassed. The man abruptly let her go, saying she weighed too much. Ariel became furious with him. She told him it was time for him to leave, that she could search alone. Despite everything, he followed her, saying he wanted to help. The perfumer trusted her sense of smell, trying to find Rena. And there she was, alone in the woods, seeing the lady. She ran towards the lady, with tears rolling down her cheeks. She immediately asked if she had hurt herself anywhere. The girl replied that she was fine. The Duke had saved her. Cedric emerged from the bushes, extending his hand to the lady. He announced that the girl was safe and sound, and Ariel could rest easy. Noticing traces of blood, the man asked if someone had been injured. The young woman thanked the Duke, as she feared something might have happened to Rena. Given this, the man only smiled, saying there was nothing to thank him for. The blonde tried to earn praise, but Cedric asked him what he was doing there. He replied that Lady Ariel had begged him and that he was only helping her. The man smiled, stating that now they were friends. But Cedric, furious with the blonde, said he couldn't forgive his misdeeds and rolled up his sleeves. Given this, the other only said that the Duke could attack, as he was challenging him. Ariel stopped their fight, saying that Rena was very scared and they could fight later. The Duke apologized for his behavior and informed her that he would ask Ern to accompany them home. The perfumer told the girl to return to the shop and rest well, since anyway, today was a day off. And the Duke invited Ariel to a private conversation. They went to dinner, and the perfumer asked what serious matter Cedric wanted to talk about. The man asked if the girl was traveling for work. The man stated that he would like her to accompany him somewhere. He explained a little more, suggesting she accompany him. They must go to the Divine City, located on the border of the Bel Air Empire. But to get there, it will take 15 non-stop days. And on horseback, Ariel apologized, asking if there was a reason for her to accompany the man on such a long journey, since she could provide him with a supply of Anyxia perfumes for the road. The man said that a single aroma was no longer enough, to which the lady was surprised. Had its effect weakened? Cedric revealed that the effect of the aroma intensifies only when the girl is near. Given this, she replied that this aroma had no conditions, like the mandatory presence of someone. But the Duke spoke from experience, as the difference in effect between having the girl near and not having her is astonishing. The girl informed him that she could not fulfill that request, because she cannot be away from the shop for a long time. Moreover, the lady declared that Cedric is mistaken, as she only supplies the aroma. So he mistakenly assumed that she is the key to solving the problem, and that it is a kind of distorted association. In that case, the man ordered to forget the previous request and attend the ball next month as his companion. Ariel felt curious to know the reason for such a request. The Duke explained that with his small social circle, it would not be easy to find a companion. The girl thought it was absurd, as someone like Cedric would enjoy great popularity. He only needed to announce his search in the square for a crowd to rush in. The perfumer thought that if she appeared at the ball as his companion, scandals would be inevitable. But on the other hand, this would greatly benefit her perfume business, as the previous new product had been a resounding success. Without thinking too much, Ariel accepted the Duke's invitation. The lady returned to the shop and was greeted by Rena and Aaron, who told her they were only waiting for her. She asked if anything serious had happened. Ariel told her that next time it would be better if she watched her, to which the maid only apologized. The girl remembered seeing horrible things. Blood, Cedric murdering a crowd of knights in front of her. At that moment, the man understood that not even Rena possessed the Anyxia aroma now that could calm his bloodlust. He was wounded, but he forbade the girl from getting close, as he was very dangerous at that moment. Cedric asked Rena to keep this a secret from Lady Winston, because otherwise, she could be in danger. Rena said she was perfectly fine and apologized for causing any inconvenience. The perfumer asked the young woman to rest for a few days. Cedric informed Guy that the Information Guild, which disappeared 16 years ago, had returned. It seems they are related to the Duke's madness. The man ordered Cedric to continue the investigation. Guy claimed to be the best informant, so Cedric could entrust everything to him. The man understood that, with luck, he could get rid of this madness once and for all. Ariel concluded that, since it was summer, it would be great to prepare a new product representing this season. It was crucial that the product allowed one to feel the season. Rena immediately suggested an association with the sea. Thinking about it, Ariel hadn't seen any marine scents in the original diary, and apparently, it was difficult to obtain in this world. Suddenly, a boy entered the place, announcing that Countess Gilbeth had sent him. He handed over a gift containing a rare herb. Jaina decided to give it to the shop, snatching this treasure from the guild leader they were negotiating with, and asked Ariel to use it wisely. Everyone present smelled such an aroma for the first time. The smell was fresh and invigorating, like a morning breeze, as if the salty sea breeze touched the tip of the nose. It could be said that this aroma personifies youthful romance. But suddenly, His Highness also arrived at the shop, demanding that she fulfill her promise to spend time with him. He had even planned a special date to make her feel obliged. She wanted to refuse. She had a lot of work. He became discouraged, calling her a cheater. The lady proposed a deal, spending a fun time creating a perfume. He replied that it didn't sound fun at all. Aaron handed the herb to the prince, insisting that he grind it immediately. The thing is, very little is known about the Trey herb. No one has used it in a perfume before, so Ariel wanted to try different extraction methods. According to research, members of the royalty of the Western Kingdom used this herb to save Snoy, but its refreshing marine scent might have other properties, besides its unusual blue color. The girl decided to try using the necessary herb as the main note. Upon spraying the perfume, they felt a fresh and invigorating scent of fruit, a smell of salty sea breeze, and fresh grass, and also a clean and stimulating amber aroma, almost imperceptible. That leaves a soft trail. The lady understood that the mysterious secret of the scent of the Trey herb is that it can revitalize. The perfume will sell very well if launched in summer, and no one but Ariel can do it. Now, all that remains is to think about the bottle and the name of the perfume. At that moment, Fonto was burning with rage. The girl swore she would get out of this hole and become more popular and successful than anyone. But suddenly, a purplish-blue smoke enveloped her. Fonta suddenly collapsed, losing consciousness. A girl entered the room with a malicious smile. Ariel handed out delicious sweets for the girls. She told them she had created a new aroma and suggested they try it. Suddenly, a blonde appeared, saying she had overheard their conversation by accident. The girl begged her to say when it would go on sale, as she wanted to be the first to buy it. But the lady replied that she could not set a date yet, but that she would help her test the product on her next visit. The blonde said she always gladly used her perfume, and that everyone in the parlor used only that one. The children noticed that Lady Ariel was becoming increasingly popular. Lately, there is more talk about her, and there are many more visitors like that lady. The shop is getting livelier and livelier. At this rate, we will have to move to a larger space. The girl thought the next door shop was empty, perfect for a renovation and expansion. A man approached Ariel and handed her an envelope, saying that Evans asked him to receive this decree. Inside the envelope, precisely, an invitation to the Imperial Ball. Ariel instantly remembered that Cedric had asked her to be his partner at the Imperial Ball next month. The children were excited, saying it was the biggest party of the year, only for the invited aristocratic elite. Incredible. It wasn't even mentioned in the original story. It seems much more important than I thought. The girls begged her to go and tell them how fun it was. They would love to know everything. Suddenly, a bunch of men appeared, for whom it would be an honor if Ariel accompanied them to the ball. The girl sighed and, apologizing, declared that she already had a partner. Ariel announced, with such enthusiasm, that her companion was Duke Evans. But they insisted, if Cedric didn't come, the lady could always contact them. The perfumer deduced that work was increasing, but, as they say, dreaming is free. The day of the Imperial Ball arrived, and they prepared Ariel with 6 people. The servants praised Ariel, saying she was more beautiful every day. But she believed that Count Winston threatened them to treat her well. Her father was in shock and furious, at the same time that his daughter was invited to the imperial ball. He declared that, to hook the imperial family, she had to be perfect from head to toe. The maids began choosing her dress, but most of the outfits were outdated. The young woman chose jewelry, selecting a necklace with a gem reminiscent of Cedric's eyes. At that moment, they knocked on the lady's door, announcing that Duke Evans was already waiting for her. The Duke suggested the lady travel together by carriage. Ariel suddenly realized that she could easily fall in love with the investor, considering that his appearance was worthy of a protagonist. The pale lady began to ask how Evans was feeling. After all, she could be called Cedric's doctor. Ariel could rightly be called his doctor, as she had calmed his madness like no physician or priest of the empire could. He asked who she was, if she wasn't a doctor, to which he received the answer that the young woman was a perfumer. The man took the lady by the arm and led her to the ballroom. Everyone instantly started talking about the couple, saying they didn't believe they only had a professional relationship. Cedric suddenly became interested in knowing if the lady had changed perfume. The thing is, that aroma was incredibly charming. It held within it the sparkle of changing waves and the calm of the sea. The Duke was stunned. Ariel knew how to express those feelings with such a beautiful aroma. The man began to tell the lady about a magical island where the sand turned pink. The Duke, assuming she would love it, proposed they travel there in the summer. Finally, an elderly woman appeared at the ball, holding a fan in her hands. That woman was none other than the very empress of the country. Suddenly, the young woman thought, the empress holds the greatest power. This is the golden opportunity to promote my perfume. The woman thanked Evans for accepting her invitation, as she was happy to see him after so long. The empress fixed her eyes on Ariel, asking if she was his companion. The Duke introduced her, to which the woman replied, "It's the first time Cedric has brought a partner," and it was clearly stated that one could not enter without a partner. Suddenly, the woman noticed that an exquisite aroma emanated from Lady Winston. She concluded that it smelled like an herb they had been gifted from the neighboring kingdom. Ariel confirmed what was said, explaining that the new perfume was based on the Trey herb. This aroma wasn't for sale yet, but the girl already had a bottle. The Empress tried it, saying it was amazing, but the suffocating air filled with energy. Compared to the Trey herb, this one was much deeper and more elegant. The perfume would undoubtedly be a success, with the praise of the Empress herself. But suddenly, Her Majesty was distracted, as she was informed that Minister Roel was requesting an urgent meeting. She asked Evans to accompany His Highness for a moment. The noble ladies rushed upon the perfumer, begging her to use that aroma. Ariel knew instantly that her business had a resounding success that day. The girl just wanted to lie down and rest. When the fifth prince appeared by her side, Kyan stated that his mother had loved that aroma. Ariel smiled, saying the man had helped her, although not much, to which he replied that even her smile was beautiful. And right at that moment, the Duke appeared in front of them. He declared furiously that if the prince didn't find a partner, he shouldn't covet his companion. To this, the blonde replied that they were just chatting a bit. The prince quickly reminded Cedric that he and Winston were only business partners. Humbled, the man took Ariel's hand and pulled her away. She asked the Duke to let go of her hand, because he was squeezing it too tightly. Evans asked why the lady kept associating with that scoundrel. Ariel revealed that his connection could boost the business. If he is from the imperial family, the Duke inquired if the boy interested her only for business, or if he had truly captivated her. Cedric frowned, asserting that he surpassed him in lineage. She knew they were enemies, but she didn't imagine it to such an extent. The Duke pronounced that, when facing adversity, nothing beats breathing fresh air. The man led the young woman to the imperial palace's orangery. Suddenly, Ariel realized that Cedric was the blonde's uncle. Unexpectedly, the lady discovered a rare herb, with an aroma between mint and mustard. She sighed, as she had not brought the diary she needed with her. Cedric deduced that Ariel had loved this place. The Duke proposed to the lady to stay a little longer, as he wished to spend time together. To which she, commenting that the view was beautiful, agreed without hesitation. The lady expressed her wish to return. Evans replied that whenever she wanted. The Duke has an urgent matter and cannot accompany Ariel, so she must leave. Meanwhile, the prince deduces that Ariel is the Duke's weak spot. What anger at the ball! In an instant, he wondered why his spirits had suddenly plummeted. At the ball, the first and third princes were presented, the entire royalty. The first, Louis, was a handsome blonde man, a true heartthrob, and the second, Pierre, who was his spitting image. Identical. their appearance shone even brighter than before. A dazzling aura. The brothers cornered the blonde, demanding he greet them. The man didn't understand. Why was he here and not studying abroad? Another brother dropped the bombshell. The youngest was extremely sensitive. But suddenly, devastating news. A newspaper humiliating the prince. The man, furious, ordered his brothers to leave immediately. Suddenly, the matriarch made her entrance, and everyone asked about her health. The empress, curiously, inquired about how their trip had gone. The knight claimed to have crossed the eastern continent, mastering martial arts. But the mother, relieved, said, "As long as Kyan hasn't done anything foolish, everything is fine." They told the young man to skip the family dinner if he didn't want to be made a laughingstock again. Ariel approached His Highness, asking why he was alone. But suddenly, the lady noticed that the man was crying. The lady exclaimed that this was very cruel. She was sure there were more cakes. Kyan said he didn't understand why people didn't like him and looked at him with contempt. If he tried hard, but everything turned out wrong. Ariel let him know that the prince himself had stated the reason for his problem. The girl said it was all because he did everything to look good in the eyes of others. The perfumer said that if he wanted things to get better, he should act for himself and do what he liked. The prince suddenly realized that, even after what he had done, she still didn't hate him. Then, Kyan declared that he liked Lady Winston, but his friends didn't even suspect they were being secretly photographed. Soon, those photos started appearing in the newspapers, and Cedric saw them. Early in the morning, Rena handed the lady the newspaper with those photos. A month later, next to Ariel's shop, the new elephant Magnus was already there. The man invited people, saying that for the first day, everything was at half price. Everyone understood that it was much cheaper than Ariel's perfume, and it seems Magnus is going all out. Winston didn't have a single customer, so Ariel suggested Rena take a rest. To that, she replied that there were no customers just now, but that in a couple of minutes they would arrive. Even if people came in, they heard about the quarter price and went straight to the other side. Or rather, to the other hall. It was strange for Kyan to stop sponsoring. She surely closed the shop. It was impossible to reopen it. Most likely, Fanta has a new investor, a much more successful one. Ariel begged Ern to fulfill one of her requests. The lady compared the aromas again and discovered Fanta's total plagiarism. The girl deduced that the continuous sale of copies at that exorbitant price could be her ruin. Suddenly, Magnus burst into the shop, complaining about the cramped space. Ariel declared that Fanta would not continue profiting from plagiarism forever. She also insinuated that her current investor would lead her to another public humiliation. Faced with this, the lady swore that this time she would wipe Ariel off the map. After reviewing the documents, the redhead announced that capital management was no longer a problem. The man asked what they would do about Evans, as he seemed to have started an investigation. The boss ordered them to attack the weak points instead of acting rashly. The protagonist accepted, stating she was just waiting for his order. Ariel quickly headed to the trade guild. The young woman thought that perhaps Lady Jaina could help her. The woman smiled and asked what brought Lady Winston here. She stated she had found a brilliant use for the Trey herb, bringing a perfume as a gift. Jaina had heard a lot about them, but she didn't think about testing them on herself. In any case, the woman needed exactly that perfume because of its effect. She said it was enough to ask for it, and she would get Trey herb instantly. The guild mistress sensed that if Ariel arrived before lunch, it was something urgent. The lady got straight to the point, as she knew the guild would visit the monarch kingdom, and she needed a unique product from Selah. The young woman urgently needed iris dye. Although the dye gives an astonishingly beautiful color, it is very expensive in the Empire due to its limited supply. Ariel provided the exact sum for the product. Jaina was shocked that the lady needed 50 million units and asked if she wanted Jaina to invest as well. The lady declared she would ensure that the 50 million were completely sold. To this, Jaina replied that this offer was totally unexpected. The perfumer explained that she planned to win the Spring Festival, which would define the color of the year. If she won, she would become the May Queen, and interest in iris dye would increase enormously. Furthermore, she assured that she would take full responsibility. The woman pronounced that Ariel thought very deeply for her age. Even the butler commented that it wouldn't bring major losses, because if the guests' plan failed, the remnants could always be sold on the continent. But there is a small problem. To get that lily, one must cross a bridge or go all the way around the monarch kingdom. It is heavily guarded, so crossing permission must be requested in advance. The butler reported that previously, with a bribe, They granted permission even if the deadline passed. But since the city changed owner, things have become much more difficult. It turns out that Cedric Evans is the new owner. And it's not that he doesn't accept bribes. It's that it's almost impossible to contact him. Ariel said she would take care of solving this matter herself. Thinking about it, since that incident, she hasn't had a chance to see him in person. She only delivered the perfumes to Nixia, and that was it. Ariel immediately understood that it was all because of that scandalous article about her. And the fifth prince, the lady decided she must talk to him about that, and stopping, she asked Ern to buy at least one gift. When Winston arrived, all the servants started bowing and greeted her in unison. The young woman was promised special first-class service, and that's why she chose a beautiful outfit in red tones. The man stated that all outfits looked good on the lady, and that he was sure Duke Evans would also love it. But then, the perfumer remembered that she had come for a gift for Sir Evans, and she announced it. But he didn't even ask who the gift was for and started working. While the young woman thought about how well customers were treated there, he showed her several options, asking her what she liked, to which she understood that these jewels were not a symbolic gift, and that these scoundrels wanted to take all her money. Ariel smiled kindly and informed him that this was not what she was looking for. The shop owner apologized and asked what kind of item interested her, saying they wouldn't disappoint her anymore. But the man was shocked when he discovered Ariel wanted to choose something similar to a fruit basket. But immediately, changing her mind, the perfumer asked to be offered a bottle of wine. They brought the lady a book with different wines, but she chose the cheapest one. Ariel noticed an item standing out from the rest, and upon approaching, she saw a necklace so expensive that it was displayed alone. She immediately knew that by taking it to the spring festival, she would achieve a dazzling harmony. But the perfumer quickly became disappointed when informed that this item was not for sale, only on display. When asking when the exhibition would end, they told her there were no exact dates, and that they could include her in a pre-order list. She wondered if the exhibition would end before the spring festival, as it was so beautiful that Ariel wanted it at all costs. Upon leaving the shop, the girl saw a sign with the owner's name, but it seemed strangely familiar to her. To this, Aaron replied that this was one of the owner's middle names. It turns out Cedric's full name is Cedric Rayner Richard Evans. If only Ariel had known, she would never have bought a gift for the Duke in that place. The young woman even understood why Cedric was mentioned so often. When Ariel arrived with the Duke, his advisor, somewhat awkwardly, asked her to wait a little longer. The young woman was beginning to think the man was busy, when suddenly, he himself came out to greet her. The lady was about to apologize for the unexpected visit, when she noticed the Duke constantly seeking physical contact. He had the pillow mark on his cheek, and the girl deduced that she had interrupted his nap. The man asked what brought her there, as she had never sought an encounter first, to which Ariel replied that she needed help. She stated that she had heard His Highness governed the fortress city. For added conviction, pronouncing Cedric's full name, she begged him to allow the trade guild to cross the bridge. The Duke was perplexed, as he thought Ariel wanted to export perfumes to Sela. But the girl explained that she urgently needed to obtain something this month. But the merchant said that without the bridge permit, they would return empty-handed. And if he gave authorization, it would help a lot. It would also allow the current decline situation to be corrected. Ariel was stubborn and preferred to solve the problem of losses on her own. The man affirmed he was sure of the plan and would manage to get her included in the list of authorized merchants this month. The lady thanked the investor and said she would send a detailed report of the outcome of her brilliant plan. Suddenly, Cedric asked if the lady was considering marriage, leaving Ariel in complete shock. She asked what brought up that question, and he replied that he read she befriended Belair for marital purposes. Ariel explained those were absurd rumors, and that His Highness, the prince, simply confessed on his own accord. Upon hearing this, the man became enraged, calling the prince a damned brat. Anyway, Evans confessed that he was relieved to know it was an unfounded rumor. Evans reiterated that before Lady Winston arrived, he had dizziness and fever, but that now nothing hurt, to which Ariel replied that he was making it up. He got up from the sofa and bowed before the investor, taking his temperature with his hand. She looked away, saying that Cedric still had a fever. The man, taking her hand, pulled her forcefully, leaving her much closer. The lady looked at him and wanted to say something, but the counselor's laughter interrupted them. Ariel pushed the man away from her and handed him the gift. After this, Ariel, full of shame and confusion, quickly left the room. Meanwhile, the fifth prince diligently sketched Lady Ariel on the canvas, whispering how much he missed her. His sketches were truly beautiful, with perfect lines. Kyan even started crying, realizing he shouldn't have confessed his love to Ariel. The man's older sister saw him, thinking she wouldn't forgive Ariel for making him even more of an idiot. A new aroma flooded Ariel's room, and Rena finally perceived the smell of iris. It was the first time Rena had smelled such an exquisite aroma. The young woman proudly declared that the lady would surely win the spring festival. The maid handed her a briefcase, saying there was an order, but Ariel hadn't ordered anything. Upon opening it, the perfumer was in shock, as she saw that very same necklace. From the handwriting on the attached note, Ariel understood that Cedric had sent it to her. The girls were commenting that this time, instead of Charlotte, a new face would arrive. But suddenly, they saw Ariel Winston arriving at the festival, the one they called the girl with a terrible temper. Due to the lady's luxurious appearance, all the girls claimed they were very happy to meet her. An unusual floral aroma emanated from the perfumer. The young woman kindly offered the aristocrats a sample of her new perfume. This perfume, made with iris, emanated an exquisite aroma that would subtly reveal the noble charm of the wearer. Everyone loved the new aroma. And of course, the girls began to ask where and how they could acquire the novel perfume. Suddenly, Princess Lena made her appearance at the ball. The young woman began to say that the lady showed the audacity of a newcomer, or rather, that she was behaving too brazenly. The princess immediately decreed that becoming the May Queen would be impossible, as the color of her dress was too expensive to become a trend. The perfumer bowed and thanked the blonde for the lesson, since the princess was, indeed, as generous as she had heard. Ariel reported that she had heard unique news. The prestigious Merchants Guild had visited the port of Sela, famous for its unique merchandise. The girl announced that the guild would soon declare that they had purchased iris dye in bulk. Since few merchants would dare bring iris from so far away, the bluish-purple color was extremely expensive. Ariel explained that the reason for the high price was not the scarcity of iris, but rather the problems with deliveries. The lady was perplexed, as the large delivery happened unexpectedly. The girl recounted that they brought plenty of colors, which is why she decided to cover herself in purple from head to toe. The aristocrats immediately understood that if Countess Gilbert said it, there was merchandise in abundance. The princess instantly declared that the countess had committed folly, since bluish-purple symbolizes death. To this, Ariel blinked in surprise, saying that in the language of flowers, iris represents luck. The lady chuckled, affirming that the world of flowers is amazing, as the luck flower has that opposite meaning. But the princess did not want to yield, so she smiled and reminded Ariel of the rumors about her friendship with her older brother. The girl sighed, calming down by thinking that a couple of gossips could help with publicity. The perfumer announced that she had met with His Highness a couple of times, but they did not have the relationship the newspapers portrayed. Lena suddenly exclaimed that Ariel should be more cautious, as the imperial family is too big a catch for her. After His Highness departed, everyone praised the color of the girl's dress, asking to try more perfume. Suddenly, another young woman appeared in the ballroom, requesting to try some of the fragrance as well. Ariel immediately remembered that this woman was the true original protagonist, whose name was Lena. She was astonished, as it was a long time until the heroine's appearance and her attendance at the festival was not mentioned. Lena, smiling, congratulated the perfumer, calling her genius. The young woman started introducing herself to everyone, while Winston didn't understand her early arrival. The lady announced she had to leave, wished a good night, and exited the hall. The girl wanted to be alone to reflect. Since Lena, according to the plot, was supposed to be linked to the hero Cedric, she understood that she and the Duke were close through business, but they were destined to drift apart at some point. Winston did not understand why her mood suddenly dropped for this reason. The villain's thoughts were interrupted by the heroine, asking what Ariel was doing alone there. The lady explained that she had simply decided to take a break. Lena came to inform her that the voting had already begun and proposed they vote together. The perfumer was clear that she shouldn't worry about that now and needed to focus on winning. The voting began, and the first candidate chosen was Ariel Winston. The second, however, was Lady Winbell. The woman announced that, following the iris concept, Lady Ariel presented an unusual outfit. And striking, the attendees claimed that Lady Winston seemed to possess a unique quality, surpassing even participants from previous years. But Lady Winbell attracted the attention of other participants with a charm of pure beauty, never before seen in the Empire. Lena stated that it was a great honor for her to share the candidate's spot with the perfumer. An aristocrat approached the young woman and told her that Lady Winston must be upset. Since men were forbidden entry, she couldn't bring the Duke as a partner. Ariel forced a smile and said that if the Duke were there, he would manipulate the votes and lead her to victory. She started laughing and saying she regretted that the Duke was born male. The competitor, approaching the perfumer, begged her not to mind them, as they were acting that way due to anxiety. Ariel literally prayed, as she wanted to be the May Queen to destroy Magnus. It turned out that the first 2 votes were for Alina. The girls tried to support Lady Winston, as there wasn't a single vote for her. But it turned out that the votes for Ariel were accumulated below, and there were many of them. And so, with a huge vote difference, the victory went to Lady Ariel Winston. They presented her with a bouquet of flowers and placed a crown on her head. Erin received the lady, realizing instantly that she had achieved her goal. The young woman understood that it was time to move directly to signing the contract. From that day on, everyone began to wear that unusual color because it was declared a trend. Everyone asked why this perfume hadn't been sold before, to which Ariel replied that it was a very rare flower and, fortunately, she had managed to buy a huge batch. The fact that Milady became the May Queen quickly spread throughout the Empire, and all the newspapers began to talk about this wonderful event. Thanks to this, the demand for iris dye increased considerably, and they made great profits. Absolutely everyone understood that with this, Ariel had taught Magnus a good lesson. To congratulate Winston, the Duke brought the lady a cake, expressing his admiration. The young woman also noticed that Cedric perfectly complimented her look by gifting her that necklace. To this, the man only smiled and hurried to invite Winston to dinner, under the pretext that they hadn't seen each other in a long time. But the lady refused, saying she was very busy today. And suddenly, the 5th prince appeared, who also wanted to invite the girl to eat. His Highness declared that he felt Ariel would be the May Queen. He said it had been a long time since they spent time together, and he wanted to enjoy time alone with her. But Evans, grabbing the other's hand, instantly shouted that he was talking nonsense and needed to get a grip. Kyan suddenly said he hadn't come for nothing, but for a conversation. The man said he wanted to make Ariel Lord Kyan's personal perfumer. He explained that last time he didn't act wisely and failed to see the precious diamond he had in front of him. Evans quickly interrupted the prince, saying that Winston was already his personal perfumer, and he would not allow them to take her away. Meanwhile, Rena noticed that Fanta had copied her perfume again. Even people noticed it, commenting that this was of poor quality, whereas Lady Ariel's was superior. Upon hearing this, Magnus felt immense shock, a fury mixed with despair. The young girl was mocking her. The lady didn't have a single customer. She asked if she should offer her help again. The girl handed her an intoxicating aroma, with which Magnus would regain her popularity. Thanks to it, people like zombies crowded the entrance of Fanta's shop. They started struggling to enter, almost breaking the glass and knocking down the doors. Ariel had prepared a good batch of products and was waiting for customers. The young woman reflected on how, since she became the May Queen, trade had improved even more. And at this rate, she would have to expand the shop. She even thought it wouldn't be bad to open a second shop and start exporting abroad. Upon exiting, Rena, Ern, and Ariel noticed strange behavior in the people. They walked toward Magnus as if hypnotized. They decided to observe closely to understand what exactly was happening. Rena commented that it seemed as if the people were under some kind of spell. Ariel asked Rena to watch the shop from the outside while she went in to investigate what was happening. Inside, the people, as if driven mad, held jars in their hands and laughed hysterically. Seeing this, Winston was horrified, as the scene was more than strange. It was terrifying. The surprising thing was that not only were the buyers beside themselves, but Magnus herself was too. The perfumer intuited that if she hadn't acted alone, someone else might have helped her. Suddenly, the 5th prince himself, Kyan, entered the shop. The man declared that he had received a notice about the use of forbidden grass in the Empire. The man ordered a magic barrier to be set up and sent for a priest to heal them. He approached a lady and, extending his hand, forced her to wake up with his light power. Ariel asked what that was. The prince revealed that the imperial family possessed divine power, and he was no exception. The man quickly realized it wasn't enough. The effect of the aroma was too strong. It is a chemical made from a poisonous herb containing a narcotic. The prince looked thoughtful. That herb is forbidden in the Empire. Ariel opined that, in her opinion, Magnus didn't do it alone. She is also under the effects of the drug. Winston said that, out of sheer curiosity, she could dedicate a moment to it and try to help. Lady Ariel developed an elixir for various addictions, just as the man had requested. The girl asked if the man suspected anyone who could have done such a thing, who replied that he suspected who it was, because something like this had already happened 16 years ago. That day, money laundering and smuggling importation were successfully completed. The girl declared that Magnus had already served her purpose and that she and Bellet would take care of it. The man ordered the girl to try to cautiously approach Lady Winston. Furthermore, he specified that only with her could they revive this place. Entering Fanta's strange shop again, the girl started spraying the elixir. This helped notably, and people came back to their senses without understanding anything. Ariel, approaching Magnus, started spraying her perfume on her. That's how she made her react. She began to ask her if the lady remembered anything, even a little bit. Fanta recounted that, before leaving Bel Air, she took one last look at her shop. But then, suddenly, a strange smoke appeared and she collapsed. Ariel suggested she rest, saying it was great to have brought her back to normal. The prince announced that, due to old friendship, he would intercede for Fantu before the imperial family, since they could blame her for everything. The lady thanked the boys and sincerely apologized for everything she did. Moreover, she said that in the future she would help them with whatever she could, if it was in her power. Winston decreed that she wouldn't get away with just once or twice. The investigation revealed that the Magnus Beauty Salon was used for money laundering. The perfumer asked if the empire was completely clean of the Kang Guild, but few know that the boss survived and fled. It has been 16 years since they were expelled, and apparently all this time they have been clenching their teeth, regaining strength. They also established a new base, and the imperial family is now busy looking for them. It was the only worthy villain gang that appeared in the original story. Kang is the final boss. They are cruel and ruthless, living up to their reputation, like the case of Duke Evan's heir kidnapping 16 years ago. Cedric was just a guinea pig in an experiment to cross a monster with a demonic being. And as a side effect, Cedric went mad, completely unhinged. Originally, Kang was not supposed to appear on the scene for another 2 years. But considering the circumstances, the plot is deviating from the plan. Ariel deduced that Cedric was in danger, based on the fact that Kang shouldn't have appeared so soon. The girl stood up and said it was time to go. She explained that she urgently needed to go somewhere, whereupon the man took her hand and told her that it was dangerous and he would accompany her. To this, Winston declared that she was not the one he should protect, nor was she small, and she would go alone. The prince said that the lady was going to the Duke anyway, to which she didn't understand why he cared. The man declared that now, he understood that the lady liked Mr. Evans. To this, the girl replied that it was not true at all. The man smiled and accused the lady of lying, saying that her ears had turned red. After this, Ariel abruptly pulled away the other's hand and communicated that she really needed to leave. The girl headed towards the Duke, asking Rick if he was inside. The man asked what brought Lady Winston here at this hour, but Ariel was thinking about something else, trying to deduce Cedric's state from his appearance. The perfumer looked at the investor and asked to speak alone. Ariel declared that, although it was late, this conversation was very important. She asked if the Duke had heard the news about the return of the Kang Intelligence Guild. Kang. To this, the man inquired severely where the lady got such information. But the girl quickly thought that if he found out Kyan had told her, he would get very angry. Ariel said that organization had a terrible reputation. The young woman understood that, of everything Cedric had suffered, the malice of the Kang Guild was the cruelest. The consequence of the incident was not only madness, but also the pain and fear from the kidnapping he experienced as a child. In the original story, when the Kangs returned, Cedric went mad. Consumed by anger, Evans asked what had caused the lady to fall into such thoughts. She replied that everything was fine, but she thought that, even if everything was in order now, Cedric's madness would gradually intensify. She understood that he needed her, the one who could cure his madness. It turns out the girl destined for Evans is Lena. The lady understood that the protagonist's presence is crucial for Cedric. The man inquired if the young woman had anything to tell him. Ariel declared she was his attending physician, and he must inform her of every detail of his health. Winston asked if he was recently concerned about a rapid pulse. Cedric smiled, seeing that Ariel was truly acting as his doctor. Evans replied that he felt as usual, but he didn't miss the chance to notice the care she provided him. The perfumer always tormented himself, thinking about a natural encounter with the heroine. Ariel only had one doubt. Will she be able to be with him until then? Cedric offered to accompany the lady to the shop, but she refused, claiming the shop was very close. The man reflected on the presence of the Kangs in the sewers. The fact that they established a base there points to their resurgence in the capital. Evans asked if they had found anything about the case from 16 years ago. The Duke concluded that, true to their reputation, they had caused havoc. Imagine experiments on the human body. The man stated that those experiments were the root of the madness. By crossing paths with a demonic entity, the grace of baptism was lost. All this because Cedric could not be cured even by divine power. The employee revealed that it is just speculation, but there is more information. Ariel Winston might have been an experimental test subject. If she was also a guinea pig, all this explains it. The man understood that her abilities could be a result of that. There must be a precise reason why they had their sights on her. Suddenly, Cedric had an attack. He started having difficulty breathing. He collapsed on the floor and gradually lost consciousness. The man began to remember when they were kept in cages with Ariel. But as soon as Evans remembered the perfumer, the pain eased. It is surely because she herself became his aroma of anyxia. Suddenly, construction at the Winston Perfumery. What is happening? The people hallucinated. The perfumery will be closed for 3 months. Winston says she will return with a larger shop. She asks for patience. Incredible. A year has already passed since they opened the shop. The girl arrived at the palace, saying she would bother them a little due to the construction. The maids started gossiping about Ariel and her title of May Queen. They all commented that the perfume she created is super popular. Suddenly, Ariel's father burst in and greeted her. How long? The man asked how the imperial ball went. She replied that Her Majesty, the Empress, loved her perfume. Unlike others, she said she also won the spring festival. And now, it is almost impossible to manage the number of customers. His Excellency, Duke Evans, invested even more in her salon. The father stated that he was tired of hearing news about how his daughter won the title of May Queen. The man affirmed that, as expected, his daughter is simply incredible and he is very proud of her. The young woman was sitting in her room, scheming how to stop Khan. Who knows if they will try again? One must be prepared for anything. Ariel concluded that she must protect Cedric in the current situation. However, the lady did not know exactly when they would meet the protagonist. The perfumer thought about creating different antidotes, based on the information about the Can Guild from the original. When trying to carry out these plans, the girl suffered many failures, in addition to explosions and accidents at her desk. When everything exploded for the umpteenth time, Winston concluded that she was a total failure. The lady thought she could do it without divine power. After all, the important thing was perfect chemical knowledge. Ariel fed Kyle a bunch of different desserts. It was obvious, because only then could she force him to work. Suddenly, the girl began to question the man about his divine power. He recounted that his older brothers were busy, so it was up to him to deal with it. The lady thanked the boy for coming to the rescue, because without him, nothing would have been resolved. Furthermore, the man rushed to apologize for letting the confession slip to the lady. And then he behaved horribly out of jealousy, something he was very ashamed of. But the girl had a huge request for the prince regarding that intoxicating aroma. She knew the Kang Guild was to blame and wanted to be ready for whatever might happen. To achieve this, Ariel desperately needed his divine power. Kyan revealed that the imperial palace also feared the worst, and he would help in any way he could. The young woman smiled and assured him that she would contact him soon. But the prince stopped her again, offering his help in exchange for a perfume created by her. The young woman's father was stunned to see His Royal Highness arrive at his palace. The man explained that his visit was because Lady Winston would make him a perfume as a favor between old friends. The old man tried to shake the prince's hand, proclaiming that his daughter was the best and the coolest perfumer. The friends entered the laboratory, while the father was immensely happy that his daughter, finally, was getting closer to royalty. Ariel instructed him that, to begin, they needed to define the general concept of the aroma Kyan liked. But the fifth prince was scheming how to get closer to the lady. Now he was where she spent the most time. That meant she saw him as someone close. Winston asked if the man had any favorite fragrance. But he, leaning dangerously close again, declared that what he liked most was Lady Ariel's scent. But it was just his fantasy. Ariel suggested they try several options. As expected, the blonde had very clear preferences. Furthermore, the girl asked him for an image he wanted to project with the aroma. He didn't think about it much, but he wanted to live up to the imperial family. Besides, the ball for the founding of the empire would soon take place, and influential people would gather there. The prince declared that he wanted to show everyone that he had changed a lot, and the lady assured him he could trust her, because she would create the best perfume that would suit his highness. Cedric deduced that Wang would take advantage of the empire's foundation, day to act. The man said that Ern could manage alone, but there are no guarantees. The counselor was surprised to learn that Evans wanted to reinforce Lady Winston's guard. Cedric declared that he would go to her as a knight or a bodyguard, but Rick reminded His Highness that, on the Empire's foundation day, every hour is scheduled with 10 points. He didn't understand how the man could leave everything so easily and start following Lady Winston everywhere. But the Duke replied that in every matter there are priorities. For 3 days and 3 nights, the Imperial Palace opened its doors. Even the streets were full of the bustle of a lavish festival. In other words, it is the grandest day of the year. Ariel simply could not miss such a scene. The girl's appearance was, predictably, beautiful and dazzling. At the lavish festival, the perfumer was greeted by Lady Charlotte. She congratulated her on her title of May Queen. She surely used her perfume at the spring festival. Charlotte stated that there was no iris perfume equal to it in the entire empire. In an instant, 2 handsome men approached the lady. They introduced themselves. One was named Sion and the other Seth. Ariel wasn't exactly planning on befriending the children of the aristocracy, but this perfume was better suited to feminine preferences than masculine ones. Charlotte declared she was delighted to see them both and hoped to have another opportunity to meet. Sion smiled and offered to accompany the lady during today's celebration. Winston politely declined, saying she wished to spend time alone with Charlotte. The children lunged at the young men, stating that their constant proposals made the lady uncomfortable. They told them that Lady Ariel did not want to spend time with them and that they should leave. Suddenly, a charming lady approached the young woman, asking the name of her perfume. She couldn't believe Ariel had created that perfume herself. The girl eagerly awaited the reopening of Ariel's shop. In response, the lady informed her that the construction was almost finished and she could visit her salon soon. But in an instant, Lady Winston's father burst into the celebration. All the aristocracy had gathered at the ball, and a meeting with her father was inevitable. He began to scold her for being so absorbed in her business, but the perfumer asked to speak when they changed locations. They needed privacy. Moving away, the father decreed that her eternal adolescence must end. It was time to assume her duty as Winston heir. In response, Ariel apologized and announced that she had no plans for marriage. A bombshell. The man sensed that the girl's thoughts were still anchored to Duke Evans. That was the real reason for her rejection. He snapped that if she kept waiting, the Duke would never notice her. A harsh truth. The father insisted that the Duke kept her close, only to scare off marriage proposals. What manipulation! But suddenly, Duke Evans himself overheard everything. He was right behind them. Ariel knew that if they were seen together at the ball, rumors would erupt. Scandal was served. The girl assured him he shouldn't worry about her marriage. She would assume responsibility and inherit the title. He surely saw her as a naive daughter, but in the end, she was the sole heir to the Winston County. The girl returned to Evans, asking what business he had with her. Before anything else, Cedric requested permission to invite the lady to dance. Everyone started murmuring, wondering if Winston and Evans were dating again. Or not. Before, His Highness showed no interest in Ariel, but feelings change in a second. Lately, they are always together, they barely have a free minute, and wow, they make a good couple. The man told the lady to call him if she needed a partner. The girl thanked him for the offer, but she couldn't be expected to attend every ball as his partner. But it was just a display of courtesy, as a knight should be. The imperial family arrived at the ball, and the Empress herself noticed Ariel returning with Cedric as a partner. But the lady boldly declared that she and Evans had just met. The woman announced that, honestly, she wanted to ask Lady Winston for advice. The Empress said that the season would change soon, so they needed to prepare new flowers to plant in the imperial garden. For Ariel, it was an immense honor that the Empress herself asked her about flowers. The perfumer explained that lilies are not that difficult to cultivate, and besides, Their color harmonizes with the national color of Bel Air. To be honest, until recently the flower didn't interest her, but lately the princess has been very taken with it. The empress recounted that she often hears her saying she can't believe she lost to a foreign flower. She thanked the lady for the advice and told her to wait for her next invitation. Winston decided she should take advantage of the moment and do business, or rather, promote her perfume. The man was drinking expensive wine when, suddenly, he bumped into a blue-haired girl and spilled it all on the floor. The stranger apologized, as she still wasn't used to such crowded places. The man asked if the lady was hurt, adding that he would just have another drink. Liana leaned down and introduced herself to the Duke, explaining that she had arrived in the Belir Empire just a couple of months ago. Furthermore, she revealed that she might officially present herself to the court very soon. Evans paused thoughtfully, as he hadn't been informed about a guest arriving from abroad. The investor detected a very familiar and warm scent coming from the young woman. Ariel thought running a business was tough, but she succeeded and received cards even from foreign aristocracy. Lately, everyone in the empire does nothing but talk about Ariel. The man approached the lady and asked if she was the creator of the magical perfumes. The perfumer understood that it was very good to have attended the ball in honor of the empire's foundation, and maybe she could expand abroad. A red-haired man approached the lady, noticing an iris scent, and the young woman started promoting her product, since it becomes more popular every hour. But the stranger hit the nail on the head by revealing that the girl mixed iris and geranium. Ariel was shocked by the stranger's knowledge in saying that the strong scent of geranium neutralizes lancewood. He said it was an amazing decision, since lancewood is quite a magical herb, and just a little bit is enough to erase, without leaving a trace, the smell of many herbs. The man confessed that he also likes the scent of that herb. Furthermore, he pointed out that just brushing against it is enough to completely eliminate all other odors. The stranger also mentioned that the herb has a particular quality. It is the best component for creating narcotics. Suddenly, the perfumer understood that this man is related to Ariel in the original story. She didn't understand why he was telling her things about narcotics. Ariel knew that narcotics were a clear sign of death, so she shouldn't react. Seeing Ariel's scared face, the man played it down. He said it was just a joke to break the ice. The stranger revealed that he prefers the scents of beautiful flowers over pestilence. He asked if the girl had been to the port city of Sela, a place of incomparable beauty. And right now, at the peak of blooming, the view must be amazing. The redhead said he could take the lady there to behold those spectacular views. Realizing the man was too close, Ariel had no choice but to refuse. The stranger insisted. It would be wonderful to chat about scents in such a beautiful place. The fifth prince came to the girl's defense, ordering him to release the lady's hand. The man, menacingly, asked what he thought he was doing in the sacred imperial palace itself. By the red hair, the prince immediately knew this stranger was from distant lands. The man declared that he came from Sender. The blonde replied that it was strange, since those from that place he has met have a very peculiar intonation. To that, he replied that there are always exceptions to the rule. The foreigner knelt and, kissing Winston's hand, swore to await their next meeting. Kyan asked Ariel if this happened to her often, and she said it happened from time to time. The girl smiled, realizing that the prince had come out just to help her. The perfumer smiled and said that, surprisingly, His Highness was also capable of amazing feats. The man also said that his image change was a success, and that he uses her perfume every day since Ariel gave it to him. He enthusiastically announced that the looks he received had changed drastically. The blonde said he felt that people liked him, that they paid him compliments and smiled at him with admiration. His mother even congratulated him for solving the Magnus case. Keen declared happily that thanks to Ariel, Winston was finally useful. The man smiled softly and, extending his hand to the lady, invited her to dance. She, out of courtesy, accepted and, standing by his side, started to waltz. The prince noticed that while they danced, their scents mingled. He declared that it would be interesting for him to perceive what scent had resulted. He inhaled the air, saying that Ariel smelled delicious. The prince became curious and asked what Ariel thought of him. He asked if he didn't feel different now. A scent that caused chills emanated from the man. Ariel kept thinking and didn't even notice she bumped into a girl behind her. She fell and, covering her face with one hand, cried silently. But suddenly, the girl realized she was, literally, on top of the Empire's fifth prince. He asked if the lady was hurt, while everyone around them fixed their gazes on them. The Duke witnessed the scene, confirming that the prince's rumor was true. He planned to marry her. Cedric sharply requested that tomorrow's meeting be cancelled. Perhaps due to the foundation day and a festival in full swing, the city was packed with people. Aaron asked the girl if she planned to attend the ball tonight. To this, Ariel replied that she had much more important matters than a ball. In the middle of the street, there was a crystal elephant that was apparently alive. Aaron declared that if its scales were removed, they could be sold at a very high price. The man quickly explained that it sheds its scales periodically, and they simply collect them. The price varied greatly depending on the condition of the scales, but it was still very expensive. In an instant, the lady ran into Cedric at the festival, who looked at her worriedly. The Duke bluntly asked why Ariel wasn't at the ball, but wandering through the city. To the question of what forced Cedric to run from the palace, he replied that he wanted to have fun. Ariel saw a stall, or rather street gambling games, which are only seen on Foundation Day. The girl suggested Cedric try the rainbow rolls together. The investor borrowed the lady's food for a moment to check its quality and safety, confirming it was natural coloring. He returned the roll to Ariel. Evans assumed that the lady had a day off, and that sometimes it is necessary to spend a day idle. The perfumer agreed, but said she hadn't come there to have fun. The girl came here for the auction that is about to start. Ariel decided to keep the reason for her visit a secret, but faced with so many questions, she gave the Duke a hint. Sperm whale. He tried to guess what the perfumer wanted to acquire. It seems it started, and immediately it was clear that the products had incredible prices. The man proposed a game. Guess the final price of the product, and whoever gets closest wins. But the lady declared that in such cases, you have to bet something. Evans proposed that the loser fulfill the winner's wish. Ariel accepted, except for something very expensive or something that takes too long. The man asked what she considered too complicated and slow. Ariel replied that a mutual agreement would be more than enough. The girl felt uncomfortable, but even so, she didn't think Cedric would ask for something impossible. The auction began. Someone offered 200,000 vis, another a whole million. The bronze statue sold for 1 million vis. And even though it was small, it was strange. But Evans always won, and Ariel gave imprecise prices. Finally, it was time for the sperm whale, and the girl was very happy. The fact is that there was no prohibition against participating in the auction. The bidding started with sperm whale oil. Someone offered 800, another a million, and another up to 1,200,000. The man asked what the lady expected, to which she replied that it was too early to give her price. But suddenly, they auctioned off the byproducts. The starting price, 5,000 vis. Thinking of tendons, fat, and whiskers among the ingredients, the girl bid immediately. She left the auction happily, with Aaron already carrying full boxes. The knight sensed that those things were worth much more than they appeared. The original world is similar to Ariel's. Almost everything has an equivalent for a perfumer, but there is something irreplaceable, sperm whale ambergris. It's a marine treasure. It fixes the perfume, intensifies it, and makes it last longer. And Ariel got that material at a bargain price. Upon leaving, the girl looked at the sky, dazzled by the fireworks. The crowd was growing, so the Duke suggested going somewhere else. Cedric suddenly pinned her against the wall, fearing the crowd would drag her away. Ariel, surprised, asked if the Duke was okay, as his attitude was very strange. But he, lost in thought, ignored her question and decreed that they needed to get to the roof urgently. Cedric apologized in advance and, without hesitation, lifted her into his arms to get her out of the huge crowd. A couple of moves and the pair appeared on the roof, with the entire street at their feet. Evans suddenly reminded Ariel that, in their recent dispute, he had emerged victorious. The girl smiled and told him that, having won, he was free to ask for a wish. She thought Cedric would ask for 10 free bottles of medicinal perfume. But he, with a mischievous smile, wished to hug her briefly. He assured her it would only take a second, and he would let her go immediately. Ariel hurried to remind him that they had broken up a long time ago. Furthermore, she warned that if anyone saw them, they would have serious problems. More, the young woman decided to prove her ideas wrong and accepted the hug. The Duke pulled her towards him, in a tight and unexpected embrace. He gave off a pine scent, and she didn't understand why time dilated like that. Cedric thanked the lady for agreeing to his, shall we say, unusual request. It seems Winston was exhausted because she slept quite late. Rena reminded her that today was the interview day. The girl also revealed that Ariel mentioned the Duke in her dreams. Nothing serious happened, but Ariel couldn't stop reviewing yesterday's events. As expected, Kang took advantage of the festival to send assassins after Ariel. The man decided that, from now on, for the lady to be safe, he would not leave her side for an instant. A boy named Lavi arrived for the interview. The girl asked him to tell her about himself, first of all. He said he loves perfume. That's why he graduated from the Academy's Faculty of Chemistry, ranking second in his class, and that his main goal is to become the most brilliant perfumer of the century, just like Ariel Winston herself. The boy began to say that he was very surprised when he smelled the first perfumes, and that he had never found a rose scent so fresh and deep. He said her perfume is like a textbook for him. The girl announced that both he and she had passed the selection, but Cedric was shocked that Ariel decided to hire inexperienced newcomers. But the madam replied, saying that work experience was not an indispensable requirement. Furthermore, she announced that both candidates possessed the necessary skills. The boss also noticed that, among everyone, they demonstrated the greatest passion for perfume. Renaa and Aaron were very happy to have new colleagues. There were several essential things for the new perfume shop. First, good employees and a large space. Second, knowledge about Ariel Winston's perfume. And third, a new perfume that would ensure all the previous points. Ariel announced that, to develop the new product, she would close the laboratory door for a while. Half a month later, the day of Ariel's perfume shop inauguration arrived. The boss informed everyone that her new shop was reopening. Everyone was intrigued to know what changes awaited them. The new employees were very nervous. It was their first job. The girl tasked Rena and Aaron with being the mentors for those youngsters. But suddenly, the investor appeared at the inauguration with a gift. How strange. Ariel had not contacted him. In the box there were Ariel's crystals. The girl thanked him for the gift, while the new employees couldn't stop wondering what relationship he had with Evans. The fifth prince ordered a barrier to be erected around the shop. To the question of why the barrier, the man replied that it was for protection. Ariel thanked the blonde for his concern. It was a very sweet gesture. The boys started receiving guests when the shop finally opened. The service was very pleasant and attentive, thanks to the new employees. The perfumer concluded that, with more staff, everything was much easier. But suddenly, a lady asked what the name of the perfume Ariel was wearing was. Ariel replied that it was a new item on sale starting today, and offered a sample. The perfume exuded a luxurious and sweet fragrance. Vanilla intertwines with it, creating a sensation of subtle sweetness, with jasmine, overflowing with exciting beauty, as a base. People will be able to enjoy the scent for a long time. The girl commented that the scent was very deep and mysterious. Then, Winston decided to reveal that it contained a special ingredient and that the base note was complemented by amber. The buyer was surprised that the scent remained on the skin from morning until night. Rena reported that half of the stock of Charm Aesthetics had already been sold. It was amazing that the most popular perfume hadn't even been advertised. To this, Ariel replied that Aisha was mistaken. If the perfume is advertised right now, all the advertising consisted of the girl spraying herself with it before receiving guests. Thanks to the popularity given to her by the title of May Queen, the lady believed she needed no further advertising. It was all because Ariel Winston herself had already become an object of desire. The girl couldn't imagine that the stock would run out so quickly. Despite being very busy, they achieved great results, and Ariel suggested celebrating among the three of them. Duke Evans entered the shop, asking to join the party. Cedric somehow found out the schedule again and arrived just at closing time. The man explained that upon smelling today's perfume scent, he assumed it was a new product. Cedric said this aroma is as seductive as it is beautiful. The knight and the maiden decided to leave the couple alone, under the pretext of bringing more food. The young woman noticed that he did not take his eyes off her. Evans shrewdly noted that Ariel continued to avoid the man's gaze. Evans noticed that her gaze was fixed on only one person, but Ariel was, to put it mildly, shocked to realize that Cedric liked Ariel. After that night, the young woman couldn't sleep and couldn't believe that Cedric could like Ariel. Since her head was a mess, the young woman made the decision to go out for some fresh air. She understood that, even if Evans liked Lady Winston, as long as he was linked to Lena, the original plot would be followed. But if things deviate from the original plot, perhaps her destiny will intertwine with Ariel's. Suddenly, below her window, the lady saw the protagonist doing something in the middle of the night. Lena apologized. She said she didn't even know the workday was over. Since the lady still couldn't sleep, She suggested to the young woman that they have a cup of tea. The lady was embarrassed and explained her late visit by saying that, in her land, everything runs late. The guest reported that she had a matter to discuss with Lady Ariel. Ariel thought the girl was very sweet, but she had no idea that initially she planned to kill her with poisoned perfume. As was known, the perfumer accepts commissions, and Ariel asked if Lena wanted to place an order. The young woman declared that the scent didn't matter, but that she eagerly desired a magic perfume. To this, Winston apologized, as she does not accept orders for magical perfumes. But not only does the high probability of failure require a large deposit, but Ariel would bear all the responsibility. Nevertheless, the blonde implored them to hear her reasons before making a decision. She revealed that she came from Sender, and that her stay in the Baylor Empire was only temporary. The reason for her stay was to look for a cure for an ancient disease of unknown origin. In other countries, they found no solution, and she was forced to come here. Here, Lena received the same negative response, and then she heard about Ariel Winston, that she was the most brilliant perfumer of the century, and that perhaps she could cure her illness. The perfumer declared that she was not a mage, but only dedicated herself to creating perfumes. The lady insisted that she wouldn't mind failure, but that Ariel had the power to help her. The young woman did not remember this insistence from Alina in the original story. She is the heroine, and if she can help someone, the lady is willing to do so. The perfumer informed that completely curing the illness is unlikely, but she can try to alleviate the symptoms. The lady said she would send her in advance tomorrow, and for now, she would take her leave. Ariel started to think that she had imagined all of this, since the original could hardly change. The young woman approached the dungeon and promised she would get Theo out of there, whatever the cost. The lady arrived at the only place in the empire where holy water flows. Aaron said that people come here to heal and purify themselves, and the priests use this holy water to bless. Ariel wanted to use the holy water and perhaps create a perfume that would free Alina from suffering. But for the holy water to have an effect, they need to receive the blessing. They only need to go up the path. Upstairs, the priests were blessing the people. The goddess of destiny, Selena, granted Ariel peace and tranquility. The priest declared that the goddess would illuminate her path and send her eternal blessings. But suddenly, the young woman saw that the fifth prince was there instead of the priest, who asked her what she was doing there. He reported that they were short of helping hands and that he was there to help because he possesses immense divine power, even for royalty. And Winston said that she was there because she received a commission and was going to create a perfume with a healing effect. But alas, taking holy water from the territory is forbidden, although perhaps the young woman could achieve it with an herb. The celestial herb is a plant that contains divine power. If it is soaked in water while reciting a prayer, the water becomes sacred. But the herb cannot be obtained either. The man provided Ariel with some holy water, proposing to develop the perfume right there. In the temple, the lady thanked His Highness, as she had brought all the ingredients with her just in case. It was amazing that the girl created a perfume so quickly and easily, but she spent a lot of time researching. Suddenly, Ariel spotted Sasha and Aileen. It turns out Sasha wasn't feeling well and wanted to receive a priest's blessing. The perfumer said she felt fine and was there to create a perfume. For its base, she used the pure scent of lily of the valley and added holy water to give the blessing effect. The girl handed the vial to Sasha, spraying the newly made product. The girl's fever immediately went down, and she could breathe more easily. Winston was very happy that the effect was positive. The fifth prince was shocked, as he had never seen such an effect in a simple perfume. Even if it's a perfume and the effect doesn't last more than 3 or 4 hours, it will still be useful. An idea occurred to the man. Create even more perfume and distribute it among the neediest. This would facilitate the priest's work and help those who cannot reach the temple. Ariel promised that she would manufacture as much of that healing perfume as possible. The girl revealed that she had mixed holy water with magical herbs that had an analgesic effect. It also contains lily of the valley flower, which gives it a subtle but charming aroma. When the protagonist sprayed herself with the elixir, she felt she was breathing much better. She explained that the perfume would not completely cure the lady, but it would alleviate her suffering. Elena, taking Ariel's hands, promised to promote her perfume upon returning to her homeland. The young woman looked away, thinking that with this, she might be able to save her brother. The girl appeared in front of the cell, waking up her dear little brother. He asked where she had been, to which she replied that she had some errands. Lena gave the boy that perfume, telling him it would relieve his suffering. She declared that this analgesic was created by the most brilliant perfumer in the empire. She asked him to use it every 4 hours, as she discreetly took perfume from the bottle, and she asked him to hide it well. Suddenly, a girl appeared asking what they were doing. The researcher Kana reported that she entered without the boss's knowledge, and that the girl might tattle. She snatched the perfume from them, asking if it had any effect. The girl declared that with this, conducting experiments would be much easier. The boss ordered Phil to report if he noticed any strange reaction. Tonight, there will be an official dinner with the kingdom. And the man concluded that he must return to the palace before it was too late. Helena was reminded that she must not forget whom she had to win over. His love is so deep that, at the last dance of the Empire's anniversary, he finished off all the mercenaries. But fortunately, Evans eliminated them before the leader extracted information. They were amused watching the Duke cross all limits, and the informant asked them to stop him. Helena assured that the man could count on her for whatever was necessary. Evans thought today was a beautiful day. Too bad the weather isn't cooperating. Kyan heard they had distinguished guests from the Kingdom of Sender. The men commented that they had seen a man and a woman from there. Evans revealed that he thought Helena was wearing the same perfume as Lady Ariel. The fifth prince said that he used to hate Cedric for being perfect at everything, but now he is grateful to him. At the imperial dinner, the Duke and the protagonist met again, and Lena said that destiny brought them together again. Cedric revealed that the girl's perfume brought him memories of her. That's why he recognized her. Incredible. The heroine doesn't wear perfume, but the Duke sensed that familiar scent. The girl told him that he and Ariel Winston had met at the spring festival. The Duke said he was her investor and that he was impressed from the business plan. He predicted that with her talent, the shop would be a success, but the results exceeded everything. Alina began to worry that he and Ariel would reconnect, because if she followed the plan, it might actually cause him aversion. The girl hurried to greet the prince and princess from the ball. Kyan suspected that the girl might be wearing a perfume similar to Ariel's. The lady confessed that she longed to meet them both and insinuated that the prince had business dealings in the past. Furthermore, she revealed that she eagerly awaits Ariel's perfumes expanding to her own kingdom. The man displayed the perfume the lady had created, exclusively for him. Kyan offered the young woman a sample, to which she replied it would be an absolute honor. Alina understood that Winston is influential enough to impact the imperial family itself, so it is not advisable to underestimate her. To revive the Kang Guild, Ariel's prodigious skills are needed. But if such a renowned public figure, known even to royalty, were to disappear, the consequences would be catastrophic. Alina made a crucial decision. She had to devise a new plan. Suddenly, Duke Evans appeared behind her, asking her, "What are you doing here?" But unexpectedly, the man inquired if the lady had seen a certain mark. 16 years ago, the guy started putting out his theories that the girl witnessed magic or mysterious experiments. She realized he suspected her of spying for the Kang, but she didn't understand what gave her away. She tried to evade the accusation, saying it hurt her to hear that and that she had never heard nor seen such a thing. Then, the man apologized, explaining that he was simply investigating. Furthermore, he asked her to notify him if she saw or discovered anything out of the ordinary. Evans still remembered the scent of the place, where he was locked up 16 years ago. Cedric was sure that the girl was impregnated with the stench of that place. The Duke checked every document of Lady Alina, but everything seemed in order. The counselor also confirmed that the young woman's identity was totally legitimate. The only oddity is the disappearance of her younger brother when he was a child. Rick heard that at 8 years old she disappeared with her brother, but returned alone weeks later. It was also known that the Kang kidnapped small children to experiment on them. If we assume that Windbell's younger brother is a Kang guinea pig, then Lena, who escaped alone after the kidnapping, might well have become a Kang subordinate to save her brother. From all this, Cedric could not understand one thing. Why did she risk her life infiltrating the palace? She could be the main accomplice, which is why the Duke requested an exhaustive investigation. If this investigation helps uncover important clues, Cedric will be able to understand why the Kang are obsessed with Lady Winston. He will be able to find a way to deal with the madness. Rena reported that Ariel received an invitation from the Imperial Palace, from Princess Lena. This was wonderful, as the princess was inviting the perfumer to the ball in honor of her birthday. Ariel thought intensely about what she could give her, something not too luxurious, but not banal either. The maid had an idea. The princess loves to travel. Euphoria. Tansari. There is no place she hasn't visited. She adores the snowy lands of the north. She is always there. It is rumored that the princess visits the snow so much to check on a legend. Winston decided. She will go there next week. She must create a perfume for the princess. A week later, the three headed to that icy place. It had been a long time since the young woman enjoyed the snow. Rena asked if Ariel had been there before, since where they live there is no winter. But suddenly, the girl saw the Duke. She was very surprised. The man was there to investigate something. But I received an invitation to the princess's ball, and I want to give her a perfume inspired by her favorite place. The Duke revealed that he liked being there because of the fairy legend, but it was only a natural phenomenon. The man warned her that it would get cold as evening fell. It would be better for Ariel to return before it got too late. Ariel was perfecting the recipe for a new perfume, the fruit of her experience, and her brilliant talent in chemistry. Ern and Rena returned with the shopping bags. Ern asked the girls to rest. He would take care of dinner. The gentlemen seriously cooked deliciously, leaving the ladies completely shocked. Although they didn't come on vacation, in the end, that is what they were doing thanks to the beautiful views. Ariel said that, since her transmigration, she had done nothing but work non-stop. At first, she was greatly shocked by the fact of having reincarnated in Ariel's body. But for her, it was a blessing to be able to dedicate herself to perfumes again. Thanks to this Ariel, because what she dreamed of so much in her past life came true here. The young woman understood that, in the end, it could be said that everything turned out in the best possible way. Winston thought about who exactly would come to visit them. The Avances. Rena said they would clean up and go to the cabin, and the perfumer would stay a while longer before arriving. Ariel had a terrible dream, but she knew that if she fell asleep on the street, Rena would scold her without hesitation. The girl finally fell asleep and dreamed of a nightmare, like the original Ariel poisoning the protagonist. When Ariel woke up, the worried Duke was already sitting beside her. He informed her that it was dangerous to sleep in such a place and that she had better go inside the house. The young woman said she had a dream where Evans abandoned her, to which the man declared he would never leave. Ariel noticed that Cedric's mood had worsened. The man confessed that not even in his worst nightmares would he want to relive something like that. Cedric offered his jacket to the girl, warning her that the cold was intensifying. Ariel realized that, as soon as she felt the warmth, she woke up suddenly. She asked if the Duke had stayed by her side the whole time she slept. To this, the Duke replied that he could not allow a lady to catch a cold. Evans, seeing her sleeping alone, thought it was dangerous and simply sat nearby. He feared Ariel would freeze, so he gently hugged her to give her warmth. To this, Winston replied that she still felt a little cold, much to her misfortune. The Duke could think of nothing better than to hug the perfumer tightly. The young woman was fully aware that she should not let herself be carried away by him. Her senses blinded her, and she could not refuse her ex when he pulled her in to kiss her. The lady apologized for not offering any resistance. An aurora borealis appeared in the sky, and the man said that, apparently, Aurora had decided to show herself. The perfumer detected a charming scent, which according to Cedric, came from a single flower. The flowers began to shine, almost to illuminate themselves, and the girl exclaimed that it was incredible. It was an amazing sensation, as if lily, jasmine, and iris had been mixed. The Duke revealed that they only bloom at dawn, when the aurora borealis appears. It turned out to be a phenomenon they called the aurora fairy. In her memory, the moments when she became the May Queen resurfaced, and when she opened her new shop, the flower awakened happy moments. It was enough to inhale its fragrance. The princess said she longed to relive childhood memories. Now Ariel knows exactly what to give her. The man asked if Alina had pleased the Duke, but she reported that not only could she not get close, but on the contrary, she aroused suspicion. The young woman recounted that she tried to start a conversation, but he ignored her, turning his back. She apologized for not being able to execute the plan as it should have been, but he, enraged, grabbed her by the chin and snapped that he thought the Duke would bite the hook with her pretty face. He concluded that, in that case, Alina was completely useless, but she revealed that the Duke would attend the princess's birthday party, and that he would try there. But the man rejected that plan, saying that Phil would give him instructions in the morning. The day of the ball in honor of the princess's birthday arrived. They informed Ariel that His Excellency, the Duke, had already arrived. The man complimented her, saying she looked especially dazzling today. It's a small detail, but better to accept it as thanks for having accompanied her several times. Cedric asked if the young woman had chosen the gift herself, but after the answer, he smiled, affirming that the color was very beautiful. Winston felt embarrassed when the Duke took her hand, especially after that kiss. The lady was already starting to think that what happened yesterday was just a mistake. At the ball, the princess herself greeted them, noticing that they had arrived together once again. The young woman asked her to accept her congratulations, declaring that her birth was a great joy for the empire. Her Highness was radiant that they had come, so she wished them to have a good time. The Duke, wanting to stand out, decided to gift the princess gold bars. The girl promised she would use them wisely. Word of honor. Ariel, on the other hand, made the firm decision to show what a real birthday gift is. Now everyone understood why the lady had been missing. She was creating a new perfume. The fifth prince saw Helena again in the palace. What a coincidence. The man decided that, just in case, he should watch her closely. Ariel couldn't take her eyes off the boy, although she begged to come to her senses. Suddenly, a doctor entered the room, immediately apologizing for the inopportune timing. The Duke asked them not to examine her, but the lady's ankle. The doctor confirmed there were no abnormalities, just as Ariel was trying to prove. The perfumer realized instantly that she almost kissed the man. Evans commented that it was fortunate the injury was so minor. Immediately after, he proposed another dance to the lady. The young woman thought that beauty was simply unprecedented. But suddenly, Ariel remembered that Cedric wanted to talk to her. The man confessed that he felt peace next to the perfumer. At first, he thought it was because of the madness. However, now he was sure that he liked Ariel Winston. But he couldn't say it. The lady ran out of the hall. The girl didn't understand how she hadn't seen it before. Was it that obvious? Cedric hugged her, begging her not to run away. But she affirmed that she wanted to be herself. And next to him, that was impossible. Ariel was about to reveal the whole reason, but a kiss abruptly closed her mouth. Cedric assured her that she shouldn't worry because, to him, Ariel was the absolute protagonist. The young woman began to wonder if she would be able to alter the course of the original story. The big question was whether the Duke would end up loving her, and not the fictional character in the plot. The perfumer decided she would never know if she didn't take the first step herself. Everything would turn out fine. After all, the story had already begun to transform. And now, she was not the supporting character Ariel Winston, but the girl from the real world. But suddenly, the lady disappeared, and a strange smoke flooded the entire hall. Cedric knew immediately that an attack of that nature could only be the work of Can. Rick shouted that they should leave immediately. Something very strange was happening. The Duke ran out, and upon seeing the prince, approached asking what was going on. He informed him that someone had hidden paralyzing smokes throughout the palace. When the appointed time arrived, a device dispersed them completely. The guard attempts to control the situation using a special neutralizer, and the main suspect turned out to be Alina, who was walking so calmly through the palace. Furthermore, considering that she showed up at the official event between kingdoms, the crime was planned. They began to interrogate the girl about who sent her, but she answered that she knew nothing. Cedric revealed that he investigated, and that it is probable that Kang is holding the Windbell family hostage. That is why she acts under their orders. Since he and his younger brother were kidnapped and Alina returned alone, her whereabouts are unknown. Recently, the Duke even showed her the Can mark, and from her look, she knows it. The girl looked away and asked if, by telling everything she knows, they could save her brother. Evans said there is a possibility, but he cannot give total guarantee. However, they must do everything possible, because the girl will reveal everything. The Khan want to exert influence through the powerful demonic beasts they have created. To control them, a special chemical is needed. The Duke stated that with their abilities, total control is impossible. They plan to use Ariel's abilities to completely subjugate the demonic beasts. 5 hours have passed since Winston disappeared. The girl was paralyzed and lying on a stone table. Seeing that she was waking up, the man approached without hesitation. The lady recognized him instantly. At the ball, he had offered her his company. He introduced himself as Rode, second in command of the guild itself. But looking at him, the lady knew. He was the leader of a dangerous gang. He denied the kidnapping, affirming that he only wanted to fulfill his desires. Rode insisted that a long time had passed. Perhaps she didn't even remember him. Rode declared that he would help her revive those lost memories. The Empress alerted. They have infiltrated again, but we can track them. following the paralyzing smoke incident and the disappearance, an urgent meeting in the palace. The Duke roared, "I will lead an army and wipe out Khan right now." The Imperial Guard joined forces with the Evans Knights Order and infiltrated the base. Inside it was full of demonic beasts. They were endless, and the fifth prince himself took charge of the situation. Deep inside, there was a huge garden where they cultivated Onyxia. In an instant, the huge crystal supplying energy to the flowers began to emit strange noises. And to spark, they had another failure, but this time the probability of a successful creation was high. It must be acknowledged that the second in command chose the ducal family, and they were sure they would succeed. Ariel began to remember when she was little, and she and Evans were sitting in the same cage. The girl offered the boy help to heal, because he was seriously injured, since she had a miracle medicine for all diseases created by her mother. And indeed, the young woman successfully healed little Cedric. Her mother was the most brilliant scientific alchemist in the Empire and could create anything. But unfortunately, he hasn't seen his mother since arriving here, Ariel. When the carriage unexpectedly had an accident, upon opening his eyes, he found himself here. He was also dragged here after they attacked the carriage. Evans stated that, currently, both are in the hands of kidnappers. The girl proposed that they escape from here together as soon as possible. They were experimenting on the boy, recording observations, and that the highest index of magical power compatibility had been set. Test specimen number 6 has died due to the toxicity of the magical power. The red-haired boy asked his father to try to perform the test. After so much suffering, the girl continued to relieve others' pain with her mother's elixirs. The children came to the conclusion that the Kangs are completely crazy, torturing children for a week. The girl said that, in any case, it would be best if the three of them escaped from here, along with her mother. Faced with this, the red-haired boy said it was ridiculous, before introducing himself as the future second in command. The boy informed her that he knew where her mother was and asked her to follow him. Those memories pierced Cedric with a fine thread of pain. It seemed like the crystal was going to explode at any moment due to the magical force. Cedric tried to protect the girl who was helping him, and taking a piece of the crystal, he stood in front of the red-haired boy. The Duke told the prince that he remembered everything and knew who had kidnapped Ariel. Suddenly, the young woman remembered everything, even the moment she found her mother dead. From that day on, they forced her to create perfumes daily. For his own experiments, the wicked boy only made things worse, telling her that they would never let her out of there. Furthermore, with a malicious smile, he declared that she belonged to him. Ariel remembered they want to use her instead of her mother. They also tried to get rid of Cedric, to tie her even more to him. But in the end, an accident occurred that forced the suspension of a crucial experiment. And Rhodes was the one who brought Khan to destruction. The man was intrigued. What future awaited them if they joined forces? The second in command was crazy and proposed to Ariel to stay with him and radically change this world. The perfumer, with disgust, stated that no matter what he imagines, that will never happen. The red-haired boy replied that he only had to force her to do it. He planned to brainwash the lady with one more experiment. Ariel has achieved so much with so much effort. She cannot allow them to turn her into cannon fodder. At that awaited moment, Evans finally arrived at the right place. Rhodes was surprised that the man could approach her in that pitiful state. The Duke drew his sword and told Ariel to hold on a bit, that he would save her. A couple of blows and Cedric destroyed the crystals, thus dispelling the spells. God, saying that the Duke should not have intervened, threw an explosive vial emitting a strange smoke. That smoke was from the demon world, awakening the madness even more. The boss declared that no matter how much he tried, Cedric was still a simple vermin. The knights burst into the room, asking if his lordship was all right. The Duke, beside himself, lunged into the attack, lashing out at his own knights. But the fifth prince intervened to protect Arn, unleashing his divine power. His nephew begged Evans to come to his senses, because now it was Lady Winston who needed him. Voices shouted in his head, trying to manipulate him, ordering him to kill no matter whom. He lunged back into combat, but after overcoming the prince's divine power, he stopped before the knights. Ariel stood in Arn's way, covering him so that, under no circumstances, he would hurt his friend. The young woman desperately tried to make Cedric react. Suddenly, after a long agony of screams, Evans finally recognized Ariel. Ariel knew he wasn't completely mad yet, and just in case, she kept a tranquilizer pill in her pocket. The man silently pulled the girl towards him, like an embrace. The monks began to heal Kyan. The knight promised to return with good news, but Ariel had to manage alone. The symptoms intensified. It will be difficult to bear them without help. The girl didn't want to use that method, but she had no other option. Ariel put a pill in her mouth and pulled the man into a deep kiss. Did it work? Well, it's a powerful sedative, and soon Evans will feel better. Finally, the Duke regained consciousness and spoke. The man hugged the girl tightly, saying he didn't want to relive something like that. All members of Kang were tied up with powerful chains. The red-haired boy insisted, Cedric will remain a monster, even if he is a successful creation of his father. The blood of demonic beasts runs through Evan's veins, and that is irreversible now. Faced with this, the man let go. I do not regret my mixed race blood at all. There may be some side effects, but I gained undeniable power. It was glorious. Cedric could rip anyone apart, as if they were a mere rat. Ariel, for her part, asked how to completely get rid of the side effects of human experiments. Rode replied that the girl was too naive. No one on earth can purify a blackened soul. A body intertwined, even once, with demonic blood will never return to its original state. Frustration was evident on Winston's face at not getting the desired answer. Evans proudly stated that he didn't care about anything anymore. He had finally found his place. The red-haired boy insisted. She just wanted a normal life, creating perfumes as a merchant. Although now she could have things she never even dreamed of, the perfumer asked, why did he think she was interested in 8th grade children's games to dominate the world? Because he would end up rotting in prison for his crimes. He screamed that he did a lot to see Ariel, and she put a lethal perfume in his face, killing him instantly. The couple was offered transport home, using teleportation. Its use had one rule, only one person at a time. Finally, the missing children returned home. Under the command of His Excellency Duke Evans, they defeated the demonic creatures. But at the last second, the leader of the Kang Guild used suspicious magic on the Duke. This caused him unimaginable suffering, and they didn't even dare to approach. Lady Ariel Winston was the one who saved the Duke from certain death. The Imperial Palace plans to contact the lady to prepare for future emergencies. Added to the elimination of Kang and the resolution of the aftermath, the head of the Kang Guild, Rod Rosero, the main instigator of everything, was punished. His punishment was a lifetime in slavery. As long as he wears the mark, he will be monitored no matter where he goes. And if he tries to leave the country, the marked part of his body will explode. Ariel's employees, reading this news in the newspaper, commented that her life was interesting. The young woman was recognized as a romantic heroine who bravely managed to save the Duke from madness. An immense wave of popularity grew around Winston, with people incessantly asking about what happened. Some even believed that she protected Cedric with her body. The article unleashed quite the rumors, but it comforted her that, thanks to all this, her sales had skyrocketed. Ariel visited the court physician, rested a bit, and returned with renewed energy. Irina took very good care of the shop when the boss wasn't there. Now, all employees are managing wonderfully, even without the star perfumer. They advised luxuriously, reminding customers that their products lasted on the skin. Seeing this, Winston thought there would be no problem in the future. A guest was waiting for the lady on the second floor, and it was none other than Vin. She and her brother apologized for appearing so suddenly, but they wanted to thank Ariel in person. But Alina also wanted to confess that she had been deceiving her, and that the danger she faced was her fault. The perfumer replied that the important thing is that everything ended well, and she also understands that the girl had a weighty reason. At the palace, they said that, since she provided information to dismantle the Kang Guild, and she is a victim of experiments, they will spare her from punishment. But what is done is done. So if Ariel needs her, she will run to help without hesitation. To the question of what she plans to do, Lena replied that she wants to be an apprentice at the Magic Tower. What a great idea. In the original story, Lena also dreamed of being a wandering mage across the continent. She wanted to save people in trouble with magic, just as it happened to her. While Lena's brother longed to be an exceptional knight, like Duke Evans, the girl asked what that perfume was for, as she suspected it was due to the side effects of the experiments. But it was Rod who ordered its creation, so that the experiments would be more effective, because if someone forgets the pain, they can be tortured endlessly. Ariel made a decision. She will give the boys the Anyxia perfume. She revealed that Lena had demonic blood injected during the experiments. Maybe it's not as bad as Cedric, but sometimes she suffers side effects. And this Anyxia scent will help her during those moments. As soon as they finished, Elena ran home. The young woman went out onto the street, and Evans was there. The man proposed to the lady, nothing less than dedicating the night to him. The perfumer was astonished by how far away the place was. They had to use a teleporter. The Duke informed her that he planned to visit Cedric. And attention, he asked the young woman to accompany him. Ariel, intrigued, asked the reason why they had to go to that place. Evans suggested going first and then finding out everything. Upon arrival, they were greeted by an adorable old woman who noticed the long journey they had made. It turns out that this woman was the high priestess herself. She wanted to know if the lady the man was talking about was standing right in front of her. The woman moved a little closer, and the girl didn't understand why someone so important was examining her up close. The old woman asked Cedric to leave them alone for a moment, as she had a private matter to discuss with the lady. As soon as the Duke left, the priestess revealed that she knew Ariel came from another world. Immediately after, she clarified that she had no intention of interrogating her. The perfumer began to speculate how much this lady knew, and if she happened to know her earthly origin. The priestess affirmed that she understood her concern, as it was not the first time she had witnessed something like this. It was not a common phenomenon. In her long life, the woman had only seen it happen twice. The girl asked if there were other people who had arrived from her world. They all adapted wonderfully, although Ariel did so much faster than those two. It was obvious from a mile away that Winston was from another world, as she lacked the divine mark. Furthermore, her soul radiates a different energy. Ariel suddenly realized that the Duke also knew she was from another world, and that's why he brought her. The old woman declared that the Duke's fears were exaggerated. When Evans returned, the priestess informed him that Ariel was completely healthy. The girl asked if the Duke thought they had experimented on her too. Above all, Rod was obsessed with Ariel, and in the past she had been there with Cedric. The lady revealed that she performed chemical experiments instead of her mother. The lady was right. Evans did not feel the demonic energy. The Duke recounted that, upon descending into the underground sewer, he remembered his entire past, and that Ariel was the only reason he could cling to life. The man asked, if it's not for a test, what other reasons could there be? The perfumer suspected the reason, but didn't know how to explain it. Such symptoms, all the treatments for Sasana with ingredients from the demonic world. Until now, Cedric's symptoms were described in the original story as incurable. But there is another method, although the girl doubts whether she should mention it. But she thought that if the author wrote about that novel, it wouldn't be total nonsense. So, hesitantly, she revealed that the second reason why the symptoms subsided is love. Cedric's madness is due to the fact that the blood of a demonic being cannot completely mix with his. To cure him, it was necessary to eradicate the nature of the demonic beings whose blood mixed with the human one. One form of healing is to suppress it with human nature, in other words, with the feelings only a human is capable of. The girl reported that this is only a possibility. It seems the author read too many fairy tales, and besides, it sounds like the reason is that she likes Ariel too much. The man said that this does not mean that such an opinion exists. It seemed strange to him, but if she were from the same origin, the symptoms would have subsided upon their first encounter. At first, he thought it was a mnemonic effect, but at some point, inexplicable things started to happen. The Duke planned to confess in a more suitable place, at a more opportune time, but he can no longer hold back. He is head over heels in love with Ariel Winston. The man did not know if he had the right to say that, but he is desperately in love. The girl, in turn, reciprocated and also confessed her feelings to him. For a second, a strange thought crossed his mind. If he had really reincarnated into a story, the word "the end" would appear now. A month later, Ariel woke up in her bed. Cedric was next to her, asking if she had slept well. The perfumer stayed more and more in Cedric's mansion, under the excuse of being his doctor. During that month, she and Evans grew even closer. Furthermore, the girl began to expand her perfumery business, and she also opened a second perfumery in the Magellan district. Charlotte congratulated the lady on the opening and for boosting her business. Ariel proposed staying late, preventing the sale of perfumes. Elena also wanted to meet the lady. Winston was unaware that there was a restaurant in the department store. It was incredibly beautiful. Cedric had chosen the place. The place was not only pretty, but it also looked expensive. Ariel noticed that the more she looked at him, the sheer he became. For the lady, that was a truly perfect dinner. Evans suddenly blurted out that Ariel occupied all his thoughts and that, apparently, he was in love with her. He understood that those feelings were already unstoppable. The Duke said that every day with her gave him immense pleasure. So he knelt down and proposed marriage to her. Ariel, without hesitation, spoke those magic words and accepted. Now, every day they will sleep and wake up together. They spent the night normally, talking about where Ariel wanted to open her third shop. She was intrigued whether her perfume would succeed abroad. Their conversations did not cease until dawn. The man suddenly hugged her, as if he always had, and she, almost by magic, closed her eyes. The scent flooded her, and suddenly, a certainty invaded her. Even if Ariel breathed this scent for all eternity, she would never tire of it. The wedding day had arrived. Looking at herself in the mirror, the perfumer affirmed that the effort was worth it. Despite the crowds of customers, she had to sleep at least 10 hours. And the biggest problem this day was not being able to see Cedric. All because of the tradition that forbade the couple from seeing each other a week before. Rena told her it was worth waiting a little longer. Incredible. Soon, the lady would become Ariel Evans. Finally, the bride arrived at the ballroom of the Imperial Palace Bel Air. The priest asked the couple to look at each other and pronounce their vows. The groom swore he would always love one bride, and only her. The bride swore she would always love one groom, and only him. The priestess was about to say they should put on the rings, but they were already kissing. Ariel stopped Evans, asking him to put the ring on her. They say rings are chains that keep the marriage bound. Finally, the old woman declared Winston and Evans husband and wife. Jaina herself came to the wedding to congratulate the perfumer. The woman reported that lately, a band of thieves has been operating at the West Gate, and there might be trouble visiting them. The Duke stated that, in any case, he planned to send a squadron of knights there, and they would soon defeat them. Charlotte teased, constantly calling Ariel by Cedric's last name. The girls still hadn't grasped what had happened, to which the blonde replied it was because they hadn't consummated their marriage yet. Ariel wouldn't mind simply relaxing with Evans and chatting for a while. The next night, they left for the Island of Love. Euphoria, the young woman delighted in the pink sand, and then, in the fact that Evans had become her husband. They won't be able to walk much, because it will get dark soon and it will be cold. So, the Duke suggested they return to the villa. The lady had the feeling that the only thing she had done all day was eat. At this, Cedric only managed to offer her some more wine. Ariel was about to ask what kind of wine it was, when suddenly she knocked over the glass. The man stated that the young woman was beginning to worry about completely unexpected things. He smiled, wiped the wine from the other person's hands, and suggested going upstairs. The perfumer knew it was night, and they had to consummate the marriage. Even though the Duke suggested sleeping, Evans was very worried. The lady smiled and, saying it was fine, went upstairs to the second floor. Seeing her shyness, Cedric laughed. Although it wasn't the ideal time, Ariel pulled him onto the bed, deepening the delicious kiss. She noticed that Cedric was also hesitating when preferring to be on top. The next day, the couple decided to go to the beach for a while. Evans asked if Cedric knew what a viper face she had. That night, there would be a festival in the town. Peace reigned between the spouses, as their anonymity was total. Then, the Duke proposed to the lady that they start a business right there. But oh surprise, upon hearing a chance conversation, she learned about a nearby fortune teller. Ariel, moved by curiosity, decided to take a look at the tent. What a twist! The lady recognized the fortune teller, the one who had been so accurate. She didn't expect to run into her, so she asked if Ariel was on her honeymoon. The fortune teller exclaimed that it was an honor to witness such a radiant couple in person. She asked them to choose 3 cards, which would unveil the fate of the spouses. From the cards, the young woman clearly saw that those two were made for each other. These cards announce a bright future. Problems will lurk, but they will fade soon. And also, 2 little angels will visit them. The fortune teller decreed that Ariel will have twins. The girl was in total shock at the fortune teller's words. She didn't even suspect she might be pregnant, but Cedric immediately thought about needing to find a midwife and a competent mage. The man stated that if the fortune teller didn't lie, it's not so bad. She asked if the girl wanted to take a deeper look. In the past, Ariel drew the grandfather card regarding the destined partner, and out of curiosity, she asked about the gentleman's health. Ariel chose 3 cards again and learned that the gentleman's health is not in danger. That doesn't mean there won't be problems, but she will find a solution and overcome it successfully. The man communicated that the twins would make him twice as happy, but he thinks it's very difficult for the girl. But the girl revealed that half of what he said was pure fun. Finally, the spouses arrived home, and the first thing Rena did was run to hug the lady. The employees, surprised by their early return, improvised a welcome party. Rena asked why the lady had returned earlier than expected, to which Ariel replied that, starting today, she would dedicate herself to creating a new fragrance. The boys announced they would help with everything the lady asked, but Evans wanted to create a scent like the sea breeze of Euphoria, with the scent of palm trees and exotic fruits, and a touch of musk mixed with coniferous wood. While the girl continued creating her new fragrance, she noticed Cedric had been waiting for her for a while. He said the girl was so focused that he preferred to watch in silence. Ariel only let him smell her new fragrance. This perfume, the lady decided to call it Happiness. In reality, it is a series of scents, but the first one will be this one, the scent of the sea breeze. To the question of how many she plans to create, the girl replied that she doesn't know. And perhaps this will extend for eternity. Ariel kept thinking, what will the scent that gives people happiness smell like? It was the scent of flowers, of bees swearing loyalty, and of butterflies. The girl spent a long time reflecting on this question, but now she knows the answer with certainty. The smell of happiness she longed so much to reveal. It was actually the scent of a person. No fragrant flower, nor expensive spices can beat the smell of the beloved person's skin. Cedric for her, and she for Cedric are the only ones who have made them experience true happiness.